Welcome back, everybody. This is Mark 144. My name is Greg. I am the Bat Daddy 52. I'm just here with a few hooligans, my co-hosts, my friends, and with our powers combined, we're just a few geeks chasing squirrels across the multiverse. Sarah, what's up?
Hello, fellas. As you can tell, I have makeup on. Looking a little more spiffier than I am usually am.
Beautiful as
Um,
always.
yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Now, Brian, I stepped out for just a few minutes just to kind of, enjoy having the babysitter for a minute. So thank you for pushing this back. So much love, my fellas. But I couldn't miss this. This is just too much to talk about. Too much.
There is a
And I'm,
lot.
I'm actually up to date
There you go. Yeah.
On everything.
on everything.
There's a ton this week. We got penultimates, we
Yep.
got finales, and we got a big MCU movie drop. Ross, what's up, buddy? I got to see the movie with you this week. What's up, man?
Yeah, it was a good time. Not much. You being caught up on everything is a lift because there's a lot of things to talk about. It's ridiculous. Like,
It really is, and a lot of things ended. So like being caught up is like very very important right now because
yeah, you
they're
can't not talk
for,
about the end.
gone for a while. Yeah, yeah. Well, before we get into the stuff that ended, do you want to get into the one thing this week that wasn't a beginning or an ending, and
Let's
talk about the
start there.
penultimate of Miss Marvel?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Sarah, you've been a little behind on Miss Marvel, so we've gotten a little less feedback from you on it. We're right at the finale now. Here's the penultimate. What are you thinking? You loving it?
I
Liking it?
am. I
Yeah.
am. The one thing that I really love about this show is the fact that it is a you different ethnicity. So it's not just the I don't know. It just seems like Marvel's kind of like always been a certain way.
It's
Shall
like
we
in your
say?
community, like you
Yeah.
can relate to it.
Yeah, but I'm really loving like I said, the Indian slash Pakistani. I'm just because I've always loved that culture. I've always like seeing different viewpoints because really being Southern, there's not really it's not really steeped in a lot of tradition, shall we say?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting seeing it from that viewpoint, and I'm really loving that. I mean, I'm really loving the actress. I think she's fantastic. I mean, she's just like a complete teenager trying to deal with a lot of this stuff, and I think it's fantastic. And I think in this, I think we've talked a little bit about CGI and a little bit, but this episode to me, it was like, okay, we're gonna punch you in the face with the Marvel. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's like because we're developing the story, but now it's like we're gonna throw in a lot more, like a little more, just flavor of where it felt to me. This one felt more like a Marvel show,
Okay.
whereas
What about it made you feel like Marvel? I ask people that
Yeah.
all the time. Like when
I
they
think
say
I
that.
think it's more of like the storyline where the point it hits because you're bringing in a lot of villains.
So you
You're
feel like
bringing-
you're watching a comic book.
yes.
Is
Or
that
I
kinda
just
what
feel like
okay.
it's more like I don't know what you would because this to me felt more like a movie more so than like a series.
Okay.
I think it was just the fact of you've got all these components, you've introduced all these things and now you're finally pulling it all together. And I think it's just like, you've got that mix and you're like, here it is. I'm really excited to see the finale because I'm like, ooh. And plus I love like the backstory they gave too. Instead of just saying, hey, this is what it is. All right, let's now give you a little bit more of how we got to this point.
Okay. Ross, I
love
know
that
you.
comparison.
Yeah.
I love the comic book comparison because that's perfect. Like you're right. Like when I'm sitting here running it through my brain now that you brought that up, I'm like each episode has felt like its own front to back like little comic. Like you can make that out. Not every decision has to be earth shattering or world ending. It's just literally you getting along in these people's lives, and this show feels like that. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah. I'm really enjoying the show too, more than I thought I would. The problem I had this week, and it's my own fault, was I watched it after I watched Thor. So I was.
Let
It's
down.
different levels of MCU, Like nothing to knock Miss Marvel. It's a great show, but it's not on the level of seeing this new Thor movie. So like after I'd seen the new Thor movie and then I watched Miss Marvel, it was like, Okay, I really want to talk about Thor. And I do want to talk about Ms. Marvel, but man, like I would
But
much
it's a
rather.
totally different. It's a totally
It
different
is.
aspect. I mean,
It
it's
is. Yeah, I know. But that and I had a lot of finales and stuff this week. It's been a big week. So of all the stuff, this is
yes,
not the finale of this. Why we did this one first because while it was a good episode, it wasn't as big as the finales and the movie that we've seen this week. So, but I still enjoyed it. Still decent. We get a little. We get to dive into a story. This almost entire episode is in a completely different setting than the rest of the season's been. And maybe I was thinking when you said this episode alone specifically felt more Marvel, perhaps that's why, because it
I,
wasn't in that homey setting.
yeah.
Not a
I
lot of
think it's
Marvel
just the
movies are like
fact
that.
of, like I said, you have all these components. We've been introduced to all these different components, and so especially when you're talking about, and what's the grandmother's name, or the not the grandmother, but the
Aisha,
yes.
Aisha, the great
So
grandmother.
great
you
grandmother.
hear her name,
Mhm.
so it's implied of what's happened. So I felt like it just kind of enriched the story a lot more to see exactly what happened, especially with all the what do they call them? They're not really the jinn. They're the what?
Clandestines.
Yes.
Yes. So you really kind of see that, and another thing that I really like about this series is the, like I said, the family theme,
Mm.
because it was really, because you had, Kamala and her mother, so you had like this little bit of friction, and then you felt this friction between her mother and her grandmother. So now in this episode, it's like, okay, here's the culmination of it.
Mhm.
And now you kind of understand why, and you kind of see Kamala's mom's like, look, and that kind of hit me too, because I was like, because I've got to think about this myself.
Right.
um, but it's just like, you're talking about holding tight or not holding on tight enough, and it's just like the whole thing with the family, because like the clandestines, it's Aisha, she was a part of that, but yet she created her own family in this world. And it was more important because, that was her family versus what she had prior.
Mm.
And, that was kind of sad too. But then you had, I'm stuck at names. I'm sorry. The other clandestine, what was her name?
Not Najma, Nama,
I don't even know if
the
I
main
heard her
one.
name. Anyways,
Is
it
that who
was,
you're talking about? Are you talking about the main one?
yes, it was,
Najma or Nama?
what's his
I don't know if
face's mom?
it's Najma. I don't know if the J
Yeah.
is silent or not.
And it was his mom, because she left him and then saying, hey, you need to live for, I was like, oh my God. It was just like blowing my mind. I was like, whoa, because as a mom, you don't really think about a lot of this stuff because you're in the moment at that point in time. But then it's like, wait a minute, you need to kind of, it's not just
Hindsight
about you.
2020, that bad boy.
Right.
Exactly. So yeah,
Well-
there's a lot of layers in this show that really I didn't hit on the get-go.
Mhm.
But now, like I said, it's like this is one of those shows where, like the first couple episodes, you're like, okay, this is fun. This is something new, something fresh. This is fun. Kid, teen, that kind of thing. But now we're really getting, like I said, we're getting more into like the layers of it. So,
Right.
So to me, that's where it gets like more of like Marvelish.
Mhm. Well, let's break down the episode because, like I said, we're getting to the penultimate now. We've only got one left. I have a couple questions. Maybe y'all might have questions about it too, or maybe you have answers for me. We know there's two Bengals. We've only seen one. I even noticed in this flashback episode, the 1942 part of this episode, when you see her, she only has Aisha. She only has one. Aisha.
Well, I thought that they only found one before they ran out of the archaeological ruin space or whatever they were in. So
Possibly,
I don't think they were able to actually find two.
Okay, but we do know there is a second one somewhere.
So they referred to it.
Okay. Now, that being said, since we're talking about that, there is the scene like this. I have a question because she's reliving the story that her grandmother has told her, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this has already happened. She's not making it happen. She's just in a dream sequence going through this part of the story, right? So no matter what she does in this dream sequence, it's irrelevant at the time, I feel, correct? She didn't actually connect her grandmother with her great grandfather, did she?
No, they were not led to believe that Kamala did that. Is that what you're asking?
That's what I'm asking. Yeah.
No.
Okay.
We're led to believe that Kamala somehow the Bengal acted. The best way I can say this is like a wormhole back to wherever little spot was that.
Mhm.
What's Sana? I think it was the kid's name. Like at that
Sauna.
point when she had dropped it. So like all of that was real, and then she had just come back to that point.
Right.
And
But
so that was what like the flashback sequence is her going back in time. It's not really a flashback.
Okay, but what I mean is like that moment's already happened. Her going back in time this first time to that moment, she wasn't the one actually doing the stepping stones and everything else, right? She's just living it through her eyes, correct? Because I mean, doesn't this cause some kind of time?
I get what you're
paradox
saying
thing?
now.
You know what I mean?
Now I get what you're saying. You're saying
Yeah.
that she went and like was in Aisha's body and
Right.
did it?
Right, because
Okay,
if
now
it
I
was
get what you're saying.
if it was
Okay.
physically Kamala, then how does this story work? Does that mean that she's traveled back in time before and done this and didn't realize it, or,
No,
or
it
is she
definitely-
living the moment in like her own like a first person point of view of what happened?
Yeah.
To get an idea of how things got to this point is how I took it.
Now that you're bringing this up, I'm beginning to wonder if this was the reason why Aisha left the Jinn clandestines and realized that the Bengal was bad to begin with. And what I'm trying to figure out right now in my head as we're talking is if that's the case, she tried to hide out with the Bengal because she knew something like this was possible.
Right.
She didn't reveal it to her daughter, and then clearly Kamala's mom didn't have a passion for any of this stuff. And so Kamala was the next one. And whenever she came in contact with that knife from the clandestine, Najma, however you say her name,
Mm-hmm.
at the end to where, well, at the very end of last episode, where
Right.
it
To
opened the
part of that
portal,
point. Yeah.
or cracked the veil, or whatever they called it, that part seemed like it was, that could be like a jump off point for the whole reason why she wanted to escape to begin with.
So
I'm
I'm
wondering-
not crazy for what I'm thinking. Like
No,
it makes a little bit of sense.
It just took me a minute to kind of get on the same page with you because I really haven't tried to go too deep in the show because I mean it's like she's a teenager and I really appreciate that they don't go, they don't go hard on the villain or the baddie of the show. So we're led to believe it could be a couple things at this point in time. But that right there that adds to like almost like the power set, like. Maybe there's something that we're going to figure out that could be, hold some like crazy. We were just given American Chavez in Doctor Strange, so it's not like they wouldn't be too worried about throwing something that heavy out there.
Well, didn't Aisha know that with her having the bangle, because apparently there was already a plan in play of opening the veil for them to get home, right?
Back in time, as in like the 42 time frame?
1942.
Yes.
Yes.
This was prior to her meeting her
Mhm.
husband or,
The
whatever.
whole reason why she ran away. That's what
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out.
So, yeah. So then when, she creates her own family, that's when she's trying to, hide even or, dig down even further. So that was kind of weird too, because having Kamala show up, I'm like, okay, well, because in the story what her grandmother told her was the fact that, had the stars that led her to her father. So I'm like, you still had that, but it's like, okay, then you had Kamala in there that was kind of leading up to that. So I don't,
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little confusing.
Well,
Things are weird right now, man.
a question I have, since we're on the Bengal right now and we're in that moment, that scene, I don't understand how this works because she gives her daughter, which is Kamala's grandmother, the Bengal as she's going away, sends him off with her husband, her grandfather, right?
Mhm.
Then as she's fighting the other clandestine kills her. When she's leaning back against the train, she leans up and she speaks words. That writing, that scripture that the guy said he never knew about,
Very
she says
Odin.
that, and it lands on the thing. But the kid has the Bengal at that point. So how does that work?
There's no reason why an inscription. Did we see the inscription just automatically show up on it?
When she said it, it lit up. I don't know if anything changed
Okay,
on it, but
because
it did
that's
light up.
my take on it was that could have happened beforehand because it seemed to be like a common phrase that they used
Okay.
in the house that came from the father.
Okay.
And um, uh,
That would explain it. I can buy that.
yeah, maybe she just said it, and then maybe those are like either the words to get the genie to come out of the bottle, or like I said, to me it felt very Odin-esque of like Thor 1, where he's like taking just saying the whatever he is to end the Mjolnir right off the bat.
Oh
Hold
yeah.
to that point.
Oh yeah. Hold that thought. Okay, and the other thing was in that moment when she's saving the little girl, like she's throwing like these stepping stones out, right? And the little girl's running on them. For what? Like
Yeah,
she's not putting them out there where the little girl can get above the crowd. Like she's throwing them out there like a foot off the ground, so the little girl's like stepping a foot on the ground and walking through the crowd like a foot higher.
well, I mean, if
There's no
she's being
possible way that
chased,
happens.
I mean, like you don't want to be too tall. I mean, I know that you're already standing on a lit platform that, for some reason, is extremely bright. But
Well, not even that, but like, what's the difference if you're a foot taller and you've still got to go through the crowd the exact same? Wouldn't it be more difficult to do it on a little like disc platform rather than just being a foot lower on the ground and running? If you're not going to raise her above the crowd, what's the point in doing that at all? And it right away it failed. She got knocked off it like within like 3 steps, which I was like, why did she do that? Didn't make any sense. I don't know. Just me. I'm diving too deep into something. I'm nitpicking. I probably shouldn't worry about it. Let's see. So, Sarah, you touched on the mother and the grandmother and the daughter relationship that was mended. And I'm not gonna lie, like I'm not a mother, but it did feel good to see that. Like, because like the whole time you're watching this show, you want that strain to be gone, and like especially now that you figured out that there's the same strain with the mother and the grandmother as there is with the mother and the daughter.
Mhm.
She just doesn't realize that's what it is with the daughter yet, and she thinks the mother's crazy. And now you finally get to. Could you imagine that your whole life, somebody's told you something, you thought they were just batshit crazy, and then one day you realize it's true. You'd eat crow for the rest of your life. You could never
Not
tell
only
that
that,
person they were
but
wrong again.
I mean, she gets to see it firsthand.
Yeah.
I mean, like yeah. I don't know what I would do. Like, yeah, batshit crazy.
Yeah. I mean, what can you do?
Well, and plus I thought it was interesting too because when the grandmother's talking to her mother, it's like, oh, she was a rebel. She's like, oh, I'm like, no. Mm-mm. See, you're seeing in your daughter the same thing that you were doing to your mom.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, karma.
The family
That's why
aspect is really good. I mean,
That's why I have to look at
right.
myself sometimes. I'm like,
yeah,
was I that bad? 'Cause please,
Mhm.
I hope I wasn't that bad.
and that's what makes it really good. Like that, it's just. I'm gonna make another point later on, but I mean, like that whole reason where you can relate, and I mean, even you can relate outside of, what the house that you grew up in, and how this can happen in anyone's house. That's what makes these things so good.
Dang it, I had something else to bring up about now. Oh yeah, so they get the veil open. Okay. And they predicted that it would cause some kind of chaos, some kind of destruction if they did it, which it didn't. They got it closed and it didn't. But it did end up killing one of the clandestines that tried to go through. And then I don't really understand what happened with the other one, with the one, the basically the main bad one, the one who's like the alpha, the number one.
Yeah, because she went out like the same way as the other person, and like she was trying to do something different.
But did she kind of Obi-Wan herself into her son?
It talk because I don't know.
Like, does that make sense? What I'm saying? It
Yeah.
kind of feels like it's what she did. She kind of did
Yeah,
whatever went into whatever kind of force or left her body, and well, I don't know if that was her that went into her son, but you saw her son looked like he had the same power as. I keep wanting to say Starlight or Stargirl, but it's not. It's Miss Marvel. I want to say those two every time I almost say it. Miss Marvel. So I'm not familiar with the comics. Is he a sidekick co-character? Is he a villain?
Well,
Is it?
I mean, it's kind of up in the air right now with all of this. Like he takes out a drone, so I'm assuming that they already pinpointed him. It could be one of those. Did did the bad cop create the villain?
Hmm.
Because they got a little too nosy for their own good.
I just wonder if it's maybe something setting up for next season. Like something they just throw in there to set up for next season, But we'll see.
Because right now you're left with one episode left, and you're trying to figure out who really are the bad people.
Yeah,
we've seen countless times. Like now we have what's the damage control or the cops now, but we've seen Shield go bad. We've seen Hydra go bad, like all these different things. Like that, it's kind of proven that the government entity wasn't working. Like the spy thing wasn't working, and damage control isn't exactly like a spy thing, but they sure seem like a law enforcement agency now.
Yeah. Well, we have one episode left, but aren't all the people that we thought were the bad guys dead except for the one, and we don't even really know if she's dead or not? All the clandestines are dead, right? Except for the one, the head lady that we don't know if she just disintegrated into maybe her son's body or some other thing. But that's what I'm saying. Like, so all the other ones are dead. I'm wondering, or I think. I don't know.
It seems like it was a weird way for them to go out. Look, the whole veil thing, I don't know if it's supposed to be like a wool over your eyes for the real problem, or like if it actually is going to come into play later. Because it doesn't seem like it was very important for it to come into play later.
Right.
Later than now. And I do think that Carmon is going to... I mean, he blew up the building. Or, well, he blew up the drone that blew up the building. And so Bruno is involved. Carmon is involved. We don't know. I mean, I'm assuming that the mother is gone. Carmen's mom's gone.
Mm-hmm.
The family issues have kind of been resolved. And, like, I don't really know where that leaves us at now.
Yeah.
What else do we have in there that's...
There's got to be something that we've missed, they've laid an Easter egg for, or something maybe the characters didn't expect to happen, or consequence.
Or someone else with the other Bengal shows up, I mean, like, it could be anything.
Yeah, you're right. It could be.
Well, we got one more week,
like, find out.
Yeah, I was going to say, we have nothing else after the finale until possibly that Marvel's movies come out, so.
Well, I'm excited for it. I feel like they missed the opportunity to go ahead and wrap up the finale right before Thor, the release date of Thor anyway. Maybe just so that way people didn't suffer what I'm suffering from about being less excited about. But
and they stepped on Obi-Wan for no reason.
Yeah, but I'm still excited about going, the finale coming up, even though I do think that I might try to take the kids to go see Thor again. This might be a movie I want to go see in Thor theaters again, but we'll talk about Thor in a little while. So, all right, well, let's move on then. If there's anything else, Miss Marvel, you want to talk about? Anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think we'll just wrap it up next week.
Okay. Y'all want to go Umbrella Academy, Strange New Worlds, or The Boys next?
I got to talk Strange New Worlds.
Let's do it. That was the one I had written down next. Let's do it.
Okay, Greg, I know you said last week that was like, you're like, I'm digging this. I'm digging it. This was my episode.
I liked it. I like this week.
This was my episode because I wasn't quite, because that's just the kind of, which I guess it's kind of like more Picard because, you're kind of going back and trying to fix stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But this one to me, I was like, so you're bringing in like that main theme, that little underlying theme that's been going out through all out the season, with Pike and his, seeing his future and that kind of thing. So I told you it's kind of like one of those things where it's there, but they're not going to talk about every episode.
Mm-hmm.
But
they did a good job this episode of doing it.
And then, of course, they brought James T. Kirk into it.
I took a lot of notes in this episode. I think more notes than I did any other thing we watched this week, at least on television. Stardate 1457.5 when they start the episode. He moves to Stardate 2266, and it's 6.5 years later. Okay, so if it's 6.5 years later we started the season, it was 10 years away from him dying, right? Okay, he jumps forward at the end of this 6.5 years, and the incident where he would have died happened 6 months ago, meaning this whole first season is 4 years long, is the time span of this whole first season. I don't know about star dates, but through that math, this first season ends like on year 4. So he's 6 years away from that point where he would have died. Wrote it all down, a little map and everything. So
You know, that's Ross.
Nothing makes sense. The world is on fire.
To be honest with you,
it actually does make sense though. Like that's the thing. And like I made sense of it. I like just watching it, and I was like, okay, I can kind of get this.
This seemed to be that the time jump was from the time of the accident happened 7 years after that is what I gathered.
7 years after the accident.
After
happened?
the accident. So we're talking 17 years. No, that's the
Spock said specifically in the episode. He was like,
I'm sorry.
that incident happened 6 months ago.
the version of him that showed up was 17 years in the future.
Okay, I'll give you that.
I'm sorry. That's what I was trying to refer to. I was trying to get there first.
That makes sense.
That version of him is 7 years older after the accident, 17 from where he currently should be.
Right.
Or from the point in time where he saw his death happen.
Right.
So when that version of him shows up, and then they have to jump back in time, right? Or he has to go back in time to see. So like what you're saying is like 6 years after whatever, 6 years from the time that the episode actually started when he was talking to himself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make this loop somehow.
Say that again now.
The 17 plus year version of him came to visit him. Somehow Chris, Chris of Chris's future showed up and came to talk to him. Then when he touched the crystal, it only took Chris Pike in the current time 6 years in the future. Is that what you're saying?
6.5 years. Yeah. Because he got 6.5 years, and then they said this happened 6 months ago. So that would have been the 10-year mark where that incident happened, where the explosion would have happened. Which means that because they said he jumped ahead 6 years, 6.5 years.
But are you trying to say that that's the 10-year mark of him when it would have happened?
Well, the 10-year mark that's the point. Remember, we started the season and he said in 10 years this happened.
Right. Okay. Was that the 0 mark, I guess, when he should have died? Is that what you're saying?
Where he went to was 6 months after the mark where he should have died.
This is riveting conversation.
Yeah.
I know.
The point is.
Where he went was 6 months past the point where he should have died.
Current Pike was about to write that letter and send it out because he had met one of the cadets that was attached to that accident.
Right. That didn't
so
make
the whole
it out.
point of future Pike coming in saying, don't do this, because when you do this, it's going to screw up the entire timeline. Wherever you are or however you try to fix this or change this, if you do not follow the path that is set for you, just let everything go out and don't try to change it. Every scenario is you will survive, but someone else will die in your place.
Point of order. Actually, he says Spock specifically will die in his place, right?
And that's what we learned.
Point of order, though. By him coming back and telling him this, isn't he then changing what would have happened in the future? Because the original change was him finding out what happened to him in the future. That's the original glitch in the whole system, because he should have never known that. Because of that,
branched this whole thing.
Right. Because of that, it caused a branch. Now, even if the older Pike comes back and tells him, don't write this letter, now he's creating another branch off that branch. Because, right? I mean, I'm trying to understand time.
I mean, theoretically, you're making sense. And, that's why, I like Loki and the TVA thing, because, I mean, all those different things go crazy. And, if you don't stop it, then how does it not happen, or how does it happen?
Right.
You're not wrong. The problem is, where do you cross the line?
Right.
Because is anything in the prime time anymore, or is everything so far off of it? In this, what this show is basically showing you is that one of the reasons why they screwed with it the way they did was because the show was an exact makeover of an original series episode.
Yeah.
Almost shot for shot, almost completely shot for shot.
Really?
And instead of Pike, it was Kirk. And so they're already doing a spin-off or a timeline or a branch off of that with Pike.
Right. Because he
And
would have been
so,
dead at that point, and Kirk would have been the captain of that ship.
but you're asking the paradoxical question of is it chicken or is it egg?
Right.
And you never know where you're going to get with that, especially in a sci-fi show, because it's it it is that problem. You can't figure out where the very first starting point was.
Yeah. I think we
You just have
can't
to
answer
accept it.
time travel because time travel's not real. So time travel can be
Yeah,
whatever you want it
let's
to
just
be.
leave it at that because
Yeah.
it's a lot because there's like different, like I said, Marvel has their idea, Star Trek has their idea, everybody has their own idea how
Oh,
this
yeah.
works. Like I told you guys, I finally finished the Star Trek Coda series.
Go on,
Time
Chris, you
travel's
did it on
totally
yourself?
different there. Mind blown.
It
What did
was
y'all?
good. Don't get me wrong. It was fantastic, but I think that last chapter, I'm like, okay, it's gonna take me a minute to kind of follow this one. So
But this one with, I mean, having Kirk in it, the way that they introduced him, I thought was crazy. Is fantastic having him show off that he's not a punk, and
Mhm.
but also not going like. I
Full
mean,
Kirk.
he went pretty close to being full Kirk, but not full Kirk. You know, it's definitely Kirk in his learning time, and even though he was a captain, he they did the right steps to pave the way for him to be someone that Pike needs to get a hold of, get in contact with, figure out how to work with, because he has he can trust him. And so I think that's a real cool, I mean, sad because you already know your future way, but cool way to introduce Kirk and for Pike to groom Kirk.
Yeah.
But there's also, when I watched the Star Trek movie, the 2009 Chris Pine one, it felt oddly strange that he had such like an asphyxiation or he wanted Kirk, like he wanted him, and like to me it just felt like, well, why do you want this kid so much? Like it's not like Luke Skywalker using the Force, you know? I mean, like, does he have something that we don't know? Like I'm very confused on why he's putting so much stock into this kid right off the bat.
You talking about in the Pine?
Yeah, in the movie,
Kelvin
but
it's because he worked with his father, right?
Right, partly, but I mean, like, I know that all that he wanted was someone who was great at making, the right decision no matter what. That's essentially what he's looking for. It was like a captain with integrity. But this right here, this showed that he got to see how well he could make decisions. It was, I mean, it's a time travel thing all over again. Like, it doesn't make sense because it should never have happened, but it's cool that it has, and we get to see that take on it.
Right. Okay, so how crazy is it that we hear a couple times in this series, we hear the Doctor talk about the Una situation, and then we hear Spock talk with, Pike about the Una situation, and he doesn't understand or realize what's going on because it literally happens a moment after, like in that moment in time, a moment after that time. So like it's just about to happen, and he hasn't seen it yet. What'd y'all think about that? It's a cool. Well, it's not cool that it happened, but it's a cool little thing going into next season. Like, okay, there's a mission for next season, or there's something to take care of next season.
Well, he kind of thought it was taken care of, prior to that, because especially if she came to him and told him the whole situation, and he's like, "Oh, well, it's fine. We're not, I'm not stressing over that." So I think maybe he thought
swept under the rug, kind of.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So it probably kind of floored him because he's like, it's not an issue, but yet it still became an issue.
Yeah,
that's such a big. It's like I don't know how to equate it into like our own time, but like that's such a big no, like screwing around DNA and like engineering people. It's a real big no after all the eugenics wars and everything else. So
and then you don't see it again until DS9 with Bashir.
So we get to see the Vulcans in this. I don't like this version of Romulans. Sorry, not Vulcans. Yeah, Romulans. We get to see the Romulans in this one. I don't like the version of the Romulans, and I don't like the way they look. It reminds me too much. You remember that Tim Allen Galaxy Quest movie back in the day?
Yeah.
It looks like those aliens from there that are on the ship that are trying to get him to help. Like it just, I don't know. It
really the only difference between the Romulans and the Vulcans really is just the forehead ridges. That's really the only.
I don't know. Something about it. Maybe I'm just used to Spock. He just didn't look like Spock. Maybe that was what it was. I don't know.
Because they're not Vulcans.
But okay, maybe it was. He didn't look like Eric Bana, right?
Oh no.
So, that's what I was expecting when I saw it. But I'm right there. Right?
Next Generation has the
right?
best Romulans.
You did.
Well, Picard had Romulans.
Yeah.
Elnor was a Romulan.
But
Really?
this,
I didn't know
so,
this.
but the original series, and I'll connect it to it. Strange New Worlds is so far prior to that you know
So
they.
you have the
That's why.
evolution,
Yeah, this meeting of the two of them. I mean, that's what this episode was about, right? Like he made the wrong calls, and like even though he had like another captain and Kirk there to help him, he still made the wrong call that led him down that branch because of writing the note, like the butterflies. You know, you talk about all the time.
Mm-hmm.
What he screwed up doing was changing the timeline. He ended up meeting them, and they ended up blowing the crap out of each other. Now you have like the Romulan War, so
yeah,
in which they weren't messing around.
No, like the culling dude. That's crazy. Like to see that. I would have probably kicked that the who's the number one, the leader, the commander of the Romulan ship. Yeah, I would have kicked the sub commander's ass. Like seriously, just kick his ass.
Spaced him in a minute. Yep.
Like you're talking about a guy who single-handedly caused a war right there.
Mm-hmm.
Just that one guy, and that's all it takes, folks. That's all it takes is one guy who has access at the right moment.
And that's another that's another little another good thing Star Trek's good at. It'll take one little single moment and show like one decision can like totally color an entire you know, your one decision can cause a multiple like chain reaction. So it's like instead of, you know, saying, hey, you know, yes, you had the Romulans where they had, you know, their certain culture where they're like, you know, yeah, war, peace. Oh, you're weak, blah, blah. It's not always the case. Right. So it's always like this single-minded thinking, you know, and there's a lot of episodes that have kind of, you know, covered this. You have this one decision, this single-minded thing where instead of like thinking, taking blinders off, thinking outside the box, seeing for what it really is. And that's what happens. So just because, you know, just wasn't willing to negotiate, wasn't willing to, you know, kind of open up a little bit, and then that's what happens.
Okay. So I do have one question here about this, and maybe y'all might not know either. The idea they're trying to portray is that nobody's ever seen a Romulan at all, like ever. So how do you have a peace treaty with them? How do you have peace talks with them if you've never seen them? Like I get that you haven't seen them in 100 years because you've had peace and you just don't cross those lines. But the fact that you've never seen them at all, and I can even get the people on the ship because you're not 100 years old, never seeing them. But you had to know what they look like. Like Spock acted like he didn't, like when he saw them for the first time, he was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know that." And then, but he instantly knew.
That was kind of hard for me to believe. That was really kind of hard for me to believe. You're Vulcan,
I was like,
and
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I didn't.
All of it was pulled from that season 1 show of the original series. I mean, like even Spock giving that hard eyebrow when he's like suspicious, you know.
Yeah.
All of that was pulled from the same thing, and I'm with you. You know, like. Yeah. How would you not know with all that vast knowledge that they have, you know, where they can replicate food? I don't know. You surely would have a picture of them somewhere in a database that does something.
Right.
But maybe whatever happened 100 years ago happened with some other branch or some other world that has since joined Starfleet. You know, like who knows what agreements were made or what happened at that point in time. It'd be interesting to learn for sure. But
then it's kind of like, you know, like the snowball effect also, because, you know, one small conflict could have like just grown into something that was just, you couldn't really rein it back in. You know, it's just kind of like a, you know, like a Hatfield McCoy type situation.
Like a Kugelblitz, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Red scary ball of death. I don't know, but their kill and take no prisoners is really extreme, and I think that it's cool to show that the captain was, you know, cooler heads and that they were going to let cooler heads prevail, and then out of nowhere it was like no. our 50 shits just showed up are going to destroy you for making that decision on our behalf. I'm like, fuck, dark, dude. Like, majorly dark. Then you have to question, like, what was, at what point and how do you reach a treaty with that? And have they just been stocking up?
But it's
Right.
like, why do you bring the Praetor in? I mean, like, why would
Yeah.
you bring in like your highest and that didn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, Panther Pickle says it's a redo of season 1, episode 14. I think, Ross, that's the one you were referring to. Like, it's
Yeah.
just a complete redo of that. Yeah. So, well, that's pretty cool. It's cool to go back and.
Well, because I
Hate
mean,
on Ross like that.
this is that time period.
Yeah.
You have to look past the butterflies. All you can really do is just enjoy the simple fact that, I don't know, like you have such a parallel story being told that's so close to the actual timeline that, you know, they've already established. But now things are completely different. Like, I think it's cool seeing the butterflies.
Right.
Because that's what this episode truly is.
Well, and I like to believe, too, that even though there's butterflies, the same things can still happen, but maybe at different times. Like, if they can happen differently, then I feel like they could probably happen at different times. So maybe it doesn't necessarily have to fit exactly in the timeline of everything else that's happened from, well, especially one, because I don't know it. Like, I don't know it as well as y'all do. But two, I just don't think, I feel like when you're playing with time, you can play with all kinds of things like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like telling my son, he's like, "Where's Picard?" I'm like, "Dude, Picard's like way down the line, way down the line."
That's really all the notes I got for this finale, man. I really enjoyed this show. Actors that played the roles were great. I love the stories. There was only one episode that kind of took me out of Star Trek, but it was still a good episode. Star Trek, but it was still a good episode. Yeah, I'm loving it, man. Ready for season 2. It's definitely gonna have season 2, right? Got such great reviews in season 1.
Oh, yeah.
No way they don't do season 2.
Yeah, they're already working on it.
Awesome.
Pre-production,
So,
I believe.
Y'all know I have my finger on the pulse of the news. You know, that's the kind of stuff going on. So.
I love the way they ended that episode, though. When you had Pike looking straight ahead, like, this ain't over.
Yeah, it was actually really funny because it was. Look how closely they ended. Was Lower Decks, the cartoon episode? They took the captain, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I was sitting there thinking, I was like, wow, they took another high-ranking officer. It's like, I feel like Star Trek already did this, and like did this very not so long ago. Panther Pickle has been talking about Orville. I don't know if you guys have watched that show.
I have not. He asked me this morning.
It's on my list. I haven't gotten around to it.
I think I watched like
the
first season. I'm not even sure if I finished the first season, but I know I made it through quite a bit of it. And I know they had renewed it for whatever season that they're in now. And I keep seeing it advertised all over the place. I only had a problem, I think, a little bit trying to adjust to how, because it felt very Galaxy Quest-ish, like watching it. It felt like, you know, you have Seth MacFarlane play a captain. Well, when you have him to be so funny normally, when we don't see his face, like, it's very odd for me to always see his face. And that was one thing that always took me a long time to like get used to, was seeing him, seeing Family Guy, you know, see his actual face. So
does he add comedy to that role, or is
the whole
it
show's
whole
show's comedy?
Okay, the whole show's kind. It's not like a serious Star Trek show. Okay, that makes sense. Well, I have to check it out then.
It is a Star Trek parody.
Okay,
or so the first season pretty much was.
That sounds.
I don't know where they've gotten that now.
That sounds more right. Okay, I'll check it out.
He's saying actually season 3 is different. I have not seen, like I said, that far. So
okay, yeah, he had asked me this morning if on Twitter if I had seen it. I told him I hadn't watched it, but I thought Sarah had. I wasn't sure. I know somebody mentioned it, but I guess Ross, you were the only one who put any time into that one. I mean, it's one to check out if I have some time, because you know, every once in a while I stumble across something and then binge through the whole season right then, if it's 10 episodes or.
You're going to be Star Trek free for a while.
Yeah, I'll have some Star Trek time to catch up. But. All right, well, do y'all want to move on?
Yeah, what are we moving to?
Next finale, The Boys. All right, what do we got? We got The Boys, and then we got, gosh, why can't I remember the last show?
Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy. Yeah, which one do y'all want to do?
Go ahead and knock the boys out.
Knock the
Yeah,
boys
so
out.
it's just
Yeah.
one episode. Let's do that.
We're doing a whole season of Umbrella Academy. Yeah, let's go ahead and knock the boys out. Good go. All right. This season didn't end any way that I thought it was going to.
What were you thinking?
Well, I thought we were going to have some deaths. I thought somebody was going we did get some deaths. I thought Homelander or Soldier Boy were going to be dead by the end of the season. Spoilers going into this, they're not. At the end of this episode, we do get the Captain Hook moment with remember the movie Hook? How Captain Hook takes his son away from Robin Williams, and it's just kind of that weird situation where you see the kid walk away with somebody who's not his dad. Well, I guess Butcher's not his dad. Homelander is his dad. It just feels weird. We get that moment with Homelander, and I just didn't expect that. I didn't see that coming, but it opens up a lot of things.
That kid creeps me the hell out, dude. I don't know what it is about that kid. I'm just like, something's not right with that dude. Something, I don't know.
Especially now.
It's just every time, because I'm like, I don't know. I've just never really. I'm like, is that really somebody's kid? I don't know. He doesn't feel real.
It does.
It's like Joffrey. Joffrey always felt like that to me. I mean, seeing that little blonde sucker on Game of Thrones, and you're like, how is this kid real? Even being a timepiece of like a movie, like how is he real?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't get it.
I was just like, because I'm just like, what's the point of fighting over this kid? Because I'm like, is he even? It's like he's a caricature almost.
Yeah.
Oh wait, we're not talking about that show. We're talking about the boys.
You were talking about how you were expecting like
one of the notes for
one of them to die, and I think that's kind of like the whole point of the show is like, how do you kill them?
Well, I'd predicted that A-Train and Deep were going to die. Neither of them did. I didn't think Noir was going to die. He did. I thought either Homelander or Soldier Boy was going to die. Neither of them did. I thought that by the end of the season that Huey and Butcher were going to have full-on superpowers. It was going to be the only way to save the Swiss cheese brain. That didn't happen. Like everything I thought about the end, I was like, wow, I was wrong. That being said,
bit on Blackie Shield, bit on Red.
Still an awesome finale. Great season.
This season, the storyline for this season, I just felt like it was a stronger story, or I guess, I don't know. To me, it just felt like more cohesive than the first two seasons, like the first ones. I don't know. It was just, that's even with all the ridiculousness and depravity that we witnessed. I just felt like the story to me was a hell of a lot more solid. Well, I feel like I could follow it. I'm like, okay, this story is keeping me into it, regardless of the visual. Just want to scratch my eyeballs out.
Melee.
Yeah, it was just more solid, I felt.
Yeah, well, I think the first two seasons were building up to this. It was like that that bubble was going to burst. Like, when is Vought going down, or when is Homelander going to snap? We've been building up to that for 2 seasons.
But I mean, there were still good stories for the other seasons. I mean, there were still stories you could follow. But to me, this one I felt like had more meat to it. It just felt like more. I don't know. It was just a different feeling. I don't know if it was just throwing these other characters into it to where, especially just because Soldier Boy. Oh my God, that dude.
It did a great job raising the stakes. That's what matters. Like the next show that we talk about, it's going to be completely different, and like the whole look and feel of the show is completely different than the previous season. Well, this show right here still looks and feels like the previous season, but they keep stepping it up. I mean, like I saw that coming at the very end of this episode too. We don't have to start at the very end, but it's the step up to next season. Now they're, someone's even further okay with like being publicly like the crueler or the king ruler, for president, whatever you want to call himself. He's so comfortable with doing it now while killing that. What do you do with this season? The season showed him that he could take charge of the company, and how are they going to bring it down?
Yeah. Well, you notice at the end of the first season, they set it up with Edgar to be the big bad for season 2. At the end of season 2, they set it up with Edgar and Nadia to walk into season 3. At the end of season 3, they set it up with Nadia and what was the guy's name? Dakota something. Dakota
The presidential
Duck or
nominee.
yeah, Dakota Joe or something like that was his name. Something crazy like that. But you see, like so like they're taking the bad from the previous season and using them to help set up the bad for the next season, possibly. Although Nadia wasn't really that much of a factor this season. She had some key points and key moments, but she was really kind of a behind the scenes thing. You didn't see much of her.
Yeah, it's kind of like
Well,
kind of
you-
what
Yeah.
she stood for. It's like, what she's, what she's capable of. It's not
She's
just
positioned.
Yeah, what's her
Yeah.
end game is the question. Like, what is she trying to get to? How much power does she want? She's now about to be vice president, which they're inevitably going to win, right? I mean, that's for the show. Obviously,
Something
they're
could
going to
happen
win
to
that.
the president, and she could.
That is very true.
It would suck if his head popped, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
never
it's
know.
crazy, you know. Tell me about the noir scene. Did y'all see Black Noir's death coming, or at least did y'all see it coming the way it did? 'Cause
I
didn't.
didn't.
I thought
I
he was going to
didn't.
die, but I didn't think like this.
Well, it's because that Homelander can be such a loose cannon because especially when it comes to his idea of family. So when he asked Noir and he's like, "Did you know?" Noir's like, "Yeah." I said, "Oh, he's gone. He's done.
Yeah.
He's that's it. That's it."
You never let the really bad guy give you a hug. It's just too close. Just too
Well,
close. You know?
whenever he showed back up to the building, felt off
Yeah.
because like you can't hide your emotions like at that point. If you put yourself physically back in that position, then you're gonna die. He's got to go.
So he felt like he needed Homelander to beat Soldier Boy, right? Just in case he was going to fight him. He didn't know he was going to fight him. Or, to beat Soldier Boy. That's why Noir went back, right? Because he couldn't do it by himself. I can't see any other reason why he would.
Yeah, because he'd already been probably. Yeah, because it was like facing Soldier Boy for him was like the worst thing ever because it's like, that's not something he wanted to face because he knew. And then nobody really knew the extent Soldier Boy because you can't penetrate his skin, so War like I said, it's like you sharpening this sword. It's like I don't know why you're doing that because it's not going to be any good.
All right, won't matter. Let's talk about Nate and A-Train, him and his brother and their relationship.
Oh, that's
He was
that's damaged, man. That's gone.
Yeah, I think that one's gone too. Very, very damaged. Good. At least he's gone back to the blue suit. You know? Now he's got a
Well, when
superhero heart
someone
again.
gave you a heart, which like you're already twisted about, you didn't exactly have an option in that choice. So for that to already happen, he has to jump back on this train. I'm gonna have to use the word and get back on board. Like, what do you do at this point?
Mm-hmm.
They saved you. You're now invincible again, kind of. The way that you were beforehand. So.
Well, I do love how they portrayed his brother too, as like totally pure of heart. I mean, like it's not a matter of him being paralyzed that his brother was mad about and didn't want to talk to his brother, didn't want to talk to A-Train anymore. It was the fact that he killed was a Blue Hawk.
Yeah.
Which is not something you would think about, but that's what it is. And he didn't want to be associated with a murderer, and he would have rather seen his face on the news as a prisoner for people to see than him be dead. And I get that. I mean, some people look at revenge as that is justice, and I'm not saying it's not by any means, but it's interesting that he was seemed more offended by that than he did by the fact that he was paralyzed. So probably sucks. I mean, I think he was pretty pissed off about that too.
Yeah.
But that seemed to be like maybe that one didn't need to be explained. That's why he didn't say that, because that one's pretty much
accidents could happen all the time. Pretty much, it's like what he's going under, right? Like it was an unnecessary event. An accident happened. He has to live and like figure out his life this way. But you're right. Like it was the death that kind of did it in. Like my brother's a killer, which is funny because it didn't seem like when this whole show started, it didn't seem like A-Train had any cares about anything that happened to people that he killed or didn't kill. So
that's how he met Huey.
Yeah, it's funny how to circle right back to that.
Maeve gets out. I hate she got her eye poked out.
That's
I was like, oh, that sucks because that's
I
it's
always
got to
hate
be
that.
some serious pain, and that's one of those things that like you got to live with for the rest of your life, and like you got to look at it every day for the rest of your. I mean, I guess any kind of injury you have like that, you got to look at it every day for yourself. I don't know. It just feels weird. The eye feels different.
And no, I'm not even going to go into
Like
it.
the
It's
physical
disgusting.
I never
aftermath.
lost an eye though, or any
Yeah.
other body part, so I can't really speak for any of this. So
It's just you spend your whole life and they both move together. And so I mean, like if you're
Mhm.
ever in pain, like that pain's constantly there. Oof.
I think she could have taken Homelander though. I really do. I
She
think
was getting close.
she was right there at it, man. Like it was a pretty cool fight scene. I liked her escape. I was frustrated that we spent the whole last like 3 episodes talking about this gas, trying to get this gas, getting this gas. We finally got this gas. We finally, and then Starlight throws it, chucks it out the window. Well, then, okay, here's another plan. Let's go to the lab and let's make this gas. Okay, cool. We're going to make this gas. And we go through this whole trouble, and you have this badass fight scene with Kimiko, which is so awesome to have her back with her powers because she's got some awesome fight scenes. And they get this gas, and they finally get it up there, and it doesn't even do anything. It's on his face for like 4 seconds. It gives him absolutely no side effects, and then it gets tossed out the window. And I'm like, this whole time, and that was it? The gas didn't do nothing at all? Like, I don't know.
It's temporary.
It
I felt like
seemed
it had like a
disappointing.
temporary effect.
It
Maybe.
subdued him a little bit because it kept him from like totally igniting before he really did.
Maybe.
I mean,
Okay.
it might as well just been pissing on fire, but it did something.
Yeah, I think that's more.
That
what
makes
it
me wonder
seemed like.
too, because if you had this gas in like a perfume bottle, what you would do? Like, I mean, you think that's really going to do anything?
Throw it to the ground.
I mean, I hope they would have found a better delivery system, but
I mean,
It
because
does-
seriously, then they go
Dennis
back and it's like
Feinstein.
they redo it, and then they actually have like the mask attached to like a canister. And I'm like, why you do this to begin with?
Yeah. Maybe they're going to.
So let's see. Super Starlight.
Hmm.
Got to see Super Starlight on this one. Huey made the decision to turn the lights up instead of. And yeah, I like how they added a little nod to it right there. They let you know before they go into the scene. Hey, she gets her power from electricity. You know, whenever they threw her in the cell, and they made sure they noted that so everybody, in case you forgot, because it's about to happen in just a moment.
It's
She
been a
gets her
while since
power
last
from
time we showed it.
electricity. Yeah, because you really haven't seen her power up much, or really fight much at all. Butcher has 12 to 18 months to live. That's, I would assume, at some point in time is going to be remedied.
He's gonna get some V, you know it.
I
Or,
really
I
think
mean-
he will. I think he's going to end up having V, permanent V.
Yeah, that's possible. Or it pushes the. I don't know how long they're gonna make the show go on, but it could just push him to like the absolute edge. Like if he knows he's gonna die anyway, which I kind of felt like he already knew he was gonna die anyway. Like when you go screwing around with soups, so
I think you're pretty much ready to die at any point in time then. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've come to terms with it. So. All right, so what do we think next season? Like, we know we have Homelander going with Ryan now. Or I think Kimiko and Frenchie are probably done, right? They said after this mission they were gone. Or actually, no, they said that, but at the end of this mission they were a democracy. Remember? So
Yeah,
Do you
Frenchie
think-
stood up for himself. He's like,
he did.
I will
No
not
weird
shut my
as way.
cake hole.
Yeah.
Do you think they changed their minds because Kimiko got her powers back? Like the whole idea was because she didn't have powers to do that because Frenchie didn't have any powers. But now that she got her powers back and she wants to protect her family, like she said, that's why they're staying.
I think it's just like anything else. I think they just kind of found their spot, and as much as they want to leave, and they realize that, which is funny because absolute horrible stuff happens to you, but like you keep trying to fight absolute horrible stuff.
Mhm.
There's no winning with those two. They kind of got beat down the whole entire season.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they just want to stay.
And finally, I can look at Mother's Milk and be like, dude, I told you 2 episodes ago, it's okay. You knocked that dude out. Your daughter's old enough to understand. The next time you talk to her, just explain it to her and everything will be fine. Look at that.
Yeah.
I have daughters, have the experience. It happens. But I get it. The guy has PTSD. I understand. And it probably was you got a lot of shit going on. So I
you want to
imagine
shield your
it's
kid
little-
from some
little-
bullshit
little
like
more
that
difficult.
too. You don't want to drag them into it. I mean,
No, you don't want to drag them into it, but at the same time, it's not that situation just where he just knocked him out. Nothing else. slam him up against the wall and put him in the hospital and beat the shit. Just knocked him out because she heard him say something cross to him. It's not like it was unjustified. I don't feel like he flew off the deep. He kind of spiraled. He kind of snowballed a little bit. Like, and I get it in the moment he was in, but he snowballed a little bit. Like, she's not going to hate you, dude. Just talk to her. She's old enough to understand what happened. She's old enough to realize what happened there. Like, it's okay. But I get it. PTSD, spiraling, a lot going on. I get
behind what he is going through. He keeps his composure very well at almost all points in time. Like it seems like it's a struggle for him constantly, but he keeps his center, his self-centered, or whatever you want to call it. Like, he does a really good job of not shooting. Like, he'll hold his gun up, like when they saw Butcher again, and he's pissed. Like, he shows his anger. You know that it comes conveyed across the screen, but it doesn't seem like he is just ready to pull the trigger, and like, he holds on to a lot of anger. But man, like, he's always watching him punch Todd was like one of the moments to where it's like, that's why that, like, you're gonna lose it at some point, and that was him losing it.
That was
the Soldier Boy scene was him, and this one where it's like, don't do it yet, like, you're gonna die, don't do it. And how many times have they done that this season?
Yeah. Well, that was the absolute best time to lose your cool, or the best thing you could have done. If you're going to consider that losing your cool, just throwing one punch and knocking that guy out, cool. Yeah, that's cool. I can deal with that.
And now we know Todd has a little bloodlust.
Yes. Which, let's talk about that scene too. We're always talking about the subliminal messages and the stuff they portray in this, and I'm not complaining about it because they do show it on both sides, but it does irritate me. I'm a gun supporter. I'm a gun owner. It does irritate me that, like, and they have this, when that scene happens, okay, Homelander kills this guy, blasts his head off, right? And everybody's kind of stopped for a moment. They don't know how to react. And then they, oh yeah, and they're cheering on carnage and death and violence, which is what you don't want. And then, like, in the background, there's somebody holding up a sign that has a name on it, but there's somebody's head blocking part of the name. And while their head's blocking part of the name, it's saying no guns, no guns. And I'm like, I wonder if that's subliminal messaging. And then he moves his head and it says the full name. Then he moves his head back and it says no guns. And I was like, that's really odd placement for that particular thing. But once again, that's an extremist they're picking on at this moment. And I completely understand that. And I'm fine with picking on extremists in these kind of situations. And just everybody in general.
Extremism is that's what they're showing, is like how divisive things keep getting, keeps going further and further. Like, it's
what I took away from that scene was, okay, think about in the previous seasons how it's like, okay, if Homelander does come unhinged, if he really does, like you said, blast somebody with his eye lasers, it's like, what would happen?
Right.
So in that, because that's one thing that's kind of like held him back too, because it's like, that's the part of him that I don't think he wants the public to see. Him kind of losing that little bit of control, because he's always, he always has his level of self-control. He's like, oh yeah, I'm pretty much on the precipice right there. I'm about to lose my shit. But I keep it together. So the one time he does, and he's just like, you see on his face, like, oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
I just didn't know what to do.
I did it. And then to see that you actually have that crowd cheered. So now I'm wondering, okay, what frame of mind is that going to put him in now? Put Homelander in now, because now he's invincible. It's like, I can do whatever I want to now. And I have people cheering for me. I have people supporting me. Even when I lose my shit and, like, just this guy says something, done. And they're like, yeah, that's awesome. So I'm just really curious to see how, because it's almost like the governor just blew off of that engine real quick. It's like there's like nothing there to hold him back anymore.
This show has been a building of him to get to that point, and that's where, like, watching him imagine it in his head, but it not actually happening, it just goes to show you that that what kept him from doing it what kept him from doing it before now has always been that he wants his numbers, he wants his people, and he wants his fan base, and he wants. And so to justify violence because, bloodlust, it's it's what people want sometimes, and the sad thing is like this show.
It delivers.
It's gritty. Yeah, it gets
It
there.
delivers.
Listen, you're exactly right. There is a bloodlust amongst people, especially in society. It's happened throughout the entirety of society, the entire life. That's why they used to have the gladiator games. That's why we have stuff like contact sports now. It's a way for people like me and you to get that aggression out, and them as well, without actually killing somebody.
Mhm.
But before, in the past, this is the way it was. That wasn't that kind of public scene where somebody would mouth off like that and somebody would kill them. You might get a reaction like that from the crowd, or not a reaction at all and just kind of walk away. Society's changed so much over the years, and I'm not saying it's for the worse. It's definitely for the better. We don't need that kind of stuff, but it is crazy because it's always been like that. It's just the last 150 years around the world, things have changed, become more civilized, I guess you would say.
Or
More,
uncivil, depending on
I don't know
your
if I
point of
could say
view.
civilized because it's a pretty effing crazy world we live in. Yeah, but I don't know. I guess the etiquette for people is a
Yeah,
little different. So
we keep pushing the bar on what is acceptable and what is not
yeah,
acceptable.
yeah. Well, most people don't have to or never have to kill or see anybody be killed. So seeing it in real is a little different, or dealing with it
Yeah,
is a little different. So whereas
and that's why
before it
we're
was a
gonna
little
wait
different.
on Victoria or Nadia to wait, and she's gonna do the same thing. She's gonna either justify or she's gonna help make it okay, or like whatever the case may
Mm-hmm.
be for her.
That's going to be interesting. I mean, she's definitely. I thought she was going to be a little bit more of a big bad this season, but she kind of pushed along the storyline for the
Hmm.
bads this season. There wasn't really a big bad this season. It was trying to figure out what's going on with Soldier Boy and Homelander, and now
Soldier
we
Boy
have both
is
of them alive. Yeah,
Soldier Boy's he's in the deep freeze again.
in the box with what's her name,
Grace.
Grace,
Mallory.
which I didn't think she worked for them anymore. The government or anybody else that has to do with anything. It definitely didn't work for
She
Ball.
might have stepped in because since she had a little bit of more of an intel when it came to Soldier Boy, since she kind of handled him beforehand.
Okay.
Might be one of
That
those
and
where I will
she doesn't have a
personally
kid to watch.
oversee this.
Yeah. I like Soldier Boy. I like the actor who played him. I like the character. It fit well. Yeah. Shield was pretty cool. I like the scene where his shield got busted. That was pretty cool.
Yes.
Because anytime somebody has a shield, it has to get busted in the
But
final.
what an interesting, because when you saw Homelander, his eye lasers were red. You saw Butcher's, they were yellow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Different strokes, you know, like lightsaber colors.
but
It's like
Ryan's were red also.
Yeah, they were.
maybe he gets it honestly. I don't know. There's something about the temp V that is weird. Um, Kirk, when we were talking about something, you brought up that Project Power, and that was kind of like the only thing that I can compare Project V to is like you don't know what your power is that gets unleashed until
Mhm.
like you take that Super V,
Right.
and so or that V24, and so it's odd because maybe I don't know. Shoot,
You
who
don't,
knows what
yeah,
you're
you
gonna
don't know what switch is going to flip.
get? Yep.
Superpower roulette.
And for
Well,
those without superpowers, they're roasting people with superpowers because the Deep's wife was uh, drowning his ass. I don't know publicly. I don't know what was in her tell-all book though.
it was
My
definitely
husband
a.
bangs octopuses.
Yeah, it
Octopi.
was definitely an Amber Heard, Johnny Depp type situation kind of thing they're going for with that.
Oh, it was crazy.
You know.
Yeah, but and how shitty was it of Soldier Boy? He's gonna sit there and talk about okay how his father treated him, all this kind of stuff, and then when Homelander, comes, it's like, yo, we'll, now you have me, you have grandson. He's like, and Soldier Boy acted the same way.
I think that has to go. That ties back into the same thing that happened with Butcher. Like sometimes, no matter what you try, like it's a self fulfilling
That
prophecy. Everything you do to try to stop this from happening leads you to that road, and whether you want it to or not. And honestly, I find myself now like just different mannerisms from my dad that I catch myself doing. I'm like, my dad does that. You know, like whether you wanted to pick that kind of stuff up or not, sometimes you just do. And I imagine in the business they're in, being an asshole kind of comes with the territory,
Yeah.
you know?
Oh yeah, because that got handed down real quick.
Mm-hmm.
God, when he was sitting there talking to him about, was he talking to Ryan when Homelander was staying there? That was all rough. Wish I could have raised you. Or whatever he said, he's like, that explains why you are the way that you are. Is because you're like not around your dad, or like whatever the case may be. And it's like he just kept beating him down. I'm like, you're just
Mm-hmm.
making this kid feel horrible, and Homelander feel horrible because Homelander's just a grown ass kid.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of the times I actually felt for Homelander because I'm like, dude, like I think this season I've kind of felt for him more so because after the end of season 2, I was like, I don't care what happens to this guy. But this episode, it was a little bit different because I'm like, okay, I guess you saw more of like I guess the internal trauma and why he really became the asshole he is.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Soldier Boy raises a good point to Butcher because, like, this whole time, his whole life, especially with everything Homelander's done to Butcher, Butcher wants to kill Homelander, wants to kill Homelander, wants to kill Homelander.
Mm-hmm.
The second somebody else throws Ryan to the side, all of a sudden he's teaming up with Homelander to fight this guy, and he's asking him, he's like, "Why?" He's like, "Homelander slept with your wife and had a kid. Why do you feel like you need to protect this? Like, really?" And I get it. We built this story up where he's promised Rebecca that he's going to do this, but to this point, you've wanted to. I didn't kill the kid. Let's go kill Homelander. I'm sorry I hurt your son. You shouldn't have mouthed off in that moment. You shouldn't have been playing with the big boys in that moment. Let's go kill Homelander. That's kind of how I feel that moment should have gone. But I don't know.
Well, he feels the wrongness and the reason why the kid's even there. You know,
Yeah.
the fact that he tried to shut the kid out. That whole thing that got us to where we're at with the kid right
Mm-hmm.
now is the reason why he feels bad, and that's what that him taking such a horrible decision and not living with it because he only lived with it in that 5 seconds before he got in the car. I mean, he probably lived with it a little bit longer.
Right.
But then you reach a point to where the kid shows up and like now he is, literally calling Homelander daddy. And then the whole reason why he wants to kill Homelander or Soldier Boy being the weapon that he wants to use to kill Homelander with ends up hurting the kid. And so like it's all, once again, it's a circle.
It's almost like Butcher has the best intentions, but it's like he never really thinks out what the consequences are going to be.
Yeah. He's not a long con guy.
No.
And now he only has 12 to 18 months to figure it out.
And we'll see what happens with it, man. Interested to see where it goes season 4. Do we think Maeve's powerless now?
Oh, she's done.
Right.
She's like, that's what she was looking for, though. She even made a statement to Homelander. She's like, not everybody wants to keep this superpower. And she just made it sound like she's like, I just want to live a normal life. She's like, I'm over it. I'm done.
So you think she's gone? She may make an appearance, but she's definitely not superhero Maeve anymore, like coming back as to fight.
Yeah.
Like they drag her out in the penultimate, the final episode or final season.
Yeah. Be done with it. It's cool. I like the character, but it's a good write-off. I'm glad she didn't die. And I thought she did too. I was like, oh, sacrifice yourself. Even though you could have pushed him out the window and not fallen with him. I was thinking that, and I was like, you're in the air, just push him away from you in the air. But
Well, it's like
once again, when you're free falling, you may not think of that.
Well, I think she became a little more self-sacrificing like throughout. It was like, it's especially in what was it? Was it episode? Was it season 2 that it came out with the whole like the airplane scene?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened with that, and she's just like, I just don't want to do this anymore. She's like,
No, that was season 1, I think. It's
season 1,
season
2. I think it's like
they
it
held
was
it over his head.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then
but I mean, she just want to live her own life. I mean, it was like, it's because then you look at somebody like the Deep, where you're like, dude, you'll like kiss or suck anybody's ass that you can to get where you are, and I'm like, what do you even do? What, you drown people? Is that what you're good for?
Never seen him use superpower. Well, he did. Well, he did get in that pool and kill that guy underwater.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
But
okay.
beyond that, I don't know anything else the superpowers are.
He just super sucks. That's all he does. He just super sucks.
He does. What's funny is he's the comic relief on the show. So I don't think he's a character you're going to lose. Let's see. So we've lost so far of this 7, the original 7, Translucent season 1.
Mhm,
We've now lost Black Noir. We've
Mhm.
now lost Maeve.
mhm.
That's 3. So we still have, Homelander, A-Train, the Deep, and Starlight.
Well,
Starlight's
Starlight,
done
she's
pretty
done.
good. Yeah. So suit and everything.
Yeah, she's like done.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where they go with it. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. So Maeve survived the fall and the bomb of him
Mhm.
exploding. So in theory, had he gone off in that room, everybody in that room would have been like just been not super.
Well, you got to remember too, he
But it
got
would
hit with
destroy
that
the building.
gas. So I don't think he was 100% power either.
Okay. But yeah, so
That's
that's what I mean though. Like if he'd have gone off in that room, everybody would have just lost their superpowers. So could you imagine them starting next season off with nobody having any superpowers or none of them having any superpowers? That would have been an interesting way to start next season off.
well, I'm thinking if he was full power, I think it probably would it'd have done more than just knock out some powers. I just think it was because they had subdued him enough to that, and that was, I think it could have been worse.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, I thought Maeve died.
Oh yeah,
I even wrote down my
absolutely.
thing, Maeve's sacrifice, and you see her again. I was like, oh, that's nice. So
Oh, pick her up out of the alley behind a
well,
dumpster. That's
it'll
kinda
be a
weird.
good yeah. It'll be a good year before we see the prequel, the next season again, I'm sure, because that's what they always do. So I'm gonna forget everything that happened in this season between now and then. I have to go back and get a refresher, I'm sure.
I'm just glad they didn't end this season the way they ended season 2.
Meaning?
That visual stuck in your head.
Mm. How did I have to remember? How did they end season 2?
Was that not Homelander out looking over the city?
Oh, yes, yes, I do remember that. Okay, yeah, I remember. That. Sorry, I had to think about it. I was like, do I do what happened? Oh yeah, I remember now. Interesting way to do it, but hey. Well, we got season 4 coming up now, which I can't believe we're already on season 4 of the show.
Yeah, what was I watching? I think I was watching like a Q&A with the cast of like another show, and they're like, the show's been on since 2012. I'm like, shit, 2012. Like,
Time.
you sit there and look back and you're like, man, but then you're like, I've been watching TV. Like, that's why we do a podcast about junk.
Yeah. Well, y'all got anything else you want to say about the boys? I think they had a great 3rd season. Might have been the best season so far. I'd really have to go back and watch it, but it's been a really, really good season. I wasn't disappointed at all. The finale was great, and I'm excited for it to keep rolling. This one's never a disappointment.
One thing I didn't understand is why they didn't grab more V. Might as well go ahead and get it, and either 1, figure out how to use it, or 2, like, I don't know, backwards try to figure out how to create some sort of soldier boy in a bottle. Yeah.
It's a good idea. Maybe they did. We just don't know about it yet. We'll see. All right. Well, let's move on to another fantastic show. Another one of the shows that was a cornerstone show for a review on this podcast. Yeah, it's Umbrella Academy. So we were gonna do 3 episodes a week, so it would have stretched out for like 4 weeks. But then, like Ross, the overachiever, like as soon as it comes out, has watched all of them, and then we do the first 3 episodes last week. And then Sarah messages us the next day, and she's like, "Finish with Umbrella Academy," and I was like, "Well, I don't want to be the loser who hasn't watched all of it." And I had some time yesterday, and I was like, "Well, fuck it, let's do it." And it's actually pretty cool because I had to watch from episode 4 through 10. And it was insanely easy to get lost in this show and watch that and not even think about how long I sat down and watched this show yesterday, to be truly honest with you. Absolutely love the show. Season 3 has been the best season so far in this show for me. I just have no idea where they're going. The way this season ended, they seriously could have ended this series with the way this season ended with a few lines of dialogue. And I actually would have been, minus missing it, would have been okay with it. I'd have been like, okay, I get that. Tied it up in a nice little bow, and there you go. But they're coming back for season 4. So
that's not how they roll.
Yeah.
Nice little bows. That's not how they roll.
Yeah, definitely not. So what do y'all think? Season 3 did it do it for y'all? I still love this show.
I really liked the first season, and I think that one maybe just because the show was so different. The second season was a good differential. Like I thought it was able to tell like still a great story, but do it in a completely different time, and it was interesting how they did the whole time thing because this show is actually really fun with time. When Five's jumping back and forth and all the different things, like it all feels crazy enough to work without it being like completely too crazy nitpicked.
Mm-hmm.
Season 3 was I don't want to say that I liked it any less than other ones. Season 3 just felt like a natural progression with people like Diego and Five with almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I hated seeing Allison turn so dark because that point, by the time I started reaching like a certain episode, I'm like, oh, come on, Allison. Like, I get it. But like once again, like, yeah, I know that for some of them, it has been, some of them got stuck in like 1960 or 1961 or 1962, like whenever they came back at the beginning of season 2. But so some of them that it's been a lot longer than 3 to 4 weeks for some of them.
Right. It's been a few years, yeah.
But also too, it's like you grew up with superpowers. You were purchased by a rich man. Like your life has never known like an okay day. Like
right.
What you experience as life is weird enough for you. I'm like, come on, Allison, you gotta get off this. Like we gotta move. You got a world to save.
She had a little bit of CW in her. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
You're right. I can understand it to a certain point, but then like after a certain point, it's like, oh, all right. Like I'm starting to get kind of tired of this, and you kind of started to see her come out of it towards the very, very end. Mm-hmm. Whenever they're starting to suspect her of what was going on with the deal, with whatever deal was made with Hargraves that Five sees. We're just diving into this whole series right now, so no rhyme or reason. I will say though that at the end of that, we never found out what the deal was. We know there's one made, but we never found out what the deal was.
Oh, you're talking about the deal with Hargraves?
Yeah, she made a deal with Hargraves at the end.
Well, the deal seemed to be that the way that I was taking it, if we're going to jump to the very end, then the deal that she made was that she would help get everyone on board, and that his deal was basically say that, I will make sure that you survive no matter what. It's kind of what it felt like, because he told her not to stand on the one of the magic dots. It definitely felt like that was the whole reason why. Maybe. She was probably pissed because he went and did things a whole lot differently than probably what he was trying to sell her on, like when he offed certain characters. But
I think maybe you're right. Maybe that was what it was with the deal. I think more or less what I'm confused about the ending of this is we never find out what Hargrave's end game is. Like they get to that point at the end where he's almost achieves his goal.
He's trying to power some kind of engine, isn't he?
Don't know. We were never explained what his end game is. Like he wants to get into the Oblivion. He's wanted to do it for hundreds of years. He said he's worked on doing it. He wants to get into the Oblivion. He wants to kill the Guardians to reset the universe. Beyond that, we don't know anything about what his long game is. We don't know what he's trying to get them to accomplish, and it's never answered.
Well, is that his wife?
Yeah, don't know. It is his wife.
So it seems. I don't know if she is of the same
species.
Species. Yes, I was trying not to go too crazy, but of the same species. So yeah,
because apparently she was on the moon, and that's why Luther was there. And then
which
when you
they touch on for 5 seconds.
So that's who that was on the moon?
Because at the very end, you saw those two standing there. Because I don't think he ever told Luther why he was on the moon. Because he couldn't go past a certain point. But if he'd gone past that certain point, he would have seen
discovered her. Okay, I was trying to figure out who that was in the moon, but I couldn't figure it out. I never put two and two together whenever I saw her at the end. So, okay.
He straight up
So do you
Mr.
think maybe
Freezer.
that was the whole point of him restarting? Because whatever happened
yeah.
to her, it would have.
I kind of actually
That makes sense.
to draw a comparison to the next thing that we're going to talk about. When you reach that point to where you like he made it to oblivion, it's kind of like he was going to use whatever the oblivion had, like maybe he had a special wish that he could make or something of the sort, and his wish was to have his wife back. Or this whole show started with all of, I don't know how many, but they say 16 pregnancies. Or he only got
27.
27.
Mhm.
So,
Which I have a plot hole, but go ahead.
and that seemed to come from that jar of firefly things that he had whenever he let them out when his wife died. And so somehow they went on to go do something else, and like those are what caused certain people to become pregnant. I don't know. Like it's
I
such
forgot
a
about the
weird
jars thing. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, you have to rewatch the first season.
Yeah. So plot hole right there.
Watch the recap videos; they're really good.
Yeah, that's what I should do. Plot hole right there. When Harlan explains to Victor what happened, how he killed the mothers, Victor's pissed, and she's like, "You killed 27 people. There were 27 mothers. If there were 27 mothers that were killed, how is Ben still alive?"
No, hold on.
Like, because I can understand the other ones not being alive and other mothers having different kids. But if 27, the original 27 that were going to have those kids were killed, then Ben shouldn't be a kid that has superpowers, right? Unless my numbers are wrong, unless 27 is not the number and 27 was just the number she said right there. Because I'm not.
I didn't think that he killed all 27 mothers.
I don't know. I just know she said 27 people. You killed 27 people. But I'm not sure if it was just 27 people that were affected. Because how many, I know Hargrave got 7, but I'm not sure how many there were that he set out for. Can't remember what that number was. But yeah, I just saw that and I thought about that and I was like, that may be a little plot hole that maybe somebody just didn't think about. I'm always trying to find stuff like that.
I feel like there was something different about that, and that I thought that, shit. See, this is the problem. Watching it too far back.
That was why I wanted to go ahead and watch the whole thing, because I was like, well, if we drag it out for weeks, it'll be weeks since you've seen it. So
I felt like the simple fact that he knew them is how like those mothers died. Seeing as how like he came in contact with those 6 people.
It's possible, yeah.
Like, because it dumped the whole reasoning, like they don't exist in that timeline, which I thought was very smart. Like, don't make them exist.
Mm-hmm.
Make them the only versions of themselves. And like the way they did it through Harlan, I thought was really good story writing. Harlan killed the mom, so they never existed. So you never ran into that, problem with 5.
The grandfather played out,
Yeah. So like the whole, I liked all of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many people he killed though.
The time travel in this is awesome. I love how they explain everything. There's one thing they didn't explain, and maybe they will, and maybe it's just because 5 hasn't figured it out yet, is how are you the founder? How are you the founder of the Time Bureau? Like, we didn't get that question answered. But I'm sure we're going to. I mean, I guess at some point in time he could have jumped. He could be the first person to ever jump or blink, I guess he says, through time. And he figured out how to do it and created a bureau for it so other people can do it.
Yeah.
But I just don't know how he would remember it.
Well, maybe if you make it to be like the last thing that you do in your life, and then you're able to like, yeah, I mean, it's possible. Look, time travel, man.
They'll write it in
this
there
is your
somehow
deal.
or another. Yeah, they'll write it in there somehow or another because they do a good job on this show with it. They'll figure it out. But that was one thing I was wondering. It was cool. And I kind of had that feeling too. I was like, oh, it's going to be him. I was like, it's going to be him when he walks in there. And sure enough, it was.
The whole fact that they said the room was like shielded from whatever it was that would keep him from having the side effects of meeting yourself when you time travel.
Doppelganger psychosis or whatever it was, something like that. Yeah. Let's talk about the wedding. Interesting episode, because that almost the entire episode was about the wedding with Sloane and Luther. the coolest part about this this wedding is it's only like 8 people in the whole thing, but they set everything up and they have everything going the entire time like there's 100 people there. Like even when they're sitting at different tables on different ends of the wedding. Well, like it's like it's a full wedding going on.
You've
I was like,
got to
oh,
be
it's awesome.
careful when it comes down to seating. You can't put certain people
That's
together.
right. That's right.
Clearly, even at that
That's right.
wedding.
But I thought that was pretty cool. And then you get your Hargraves moment where he's human, nice,
Feel like he's
and
not a shitty person.
yeah, and the whole time I'm sitting here watching this, I'm like, I can't remember if he's an alien or not, but I seem to remember something about him being an alien at
Right?
the end of one of these seasons. I can't remember. And then when I saw the blue claw or the blue tail whip, whatever it was that killed Luther, I was like, yep, he's definitely alien. But I couldn't remember. I remember, and Ross, you said you rewatched the other seasons. There was some kind of clue about it in one of the other
It was
seasons, right?
yeah. They had gone into
The
see
end of
something.
one of the episodes in season 2, when
Yeah.
it might have been the finale of season 2, where he had basically like peeled his head off and like
Mhm.
killed all the people that were involved with knowing about the Kennedy Six, or the we always had backroom meetings with like highly influential people, and so when you had those meetings, the one that he had at the tiki bar, not with the kids but with the influential people, ended up killing them all.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I knew I remembered something like that, but I
Mhm.
couldn't exactly get
I had the
mixed up.
feeling way early on in the first season that they were pulling the Ego and Star Lord's mom scenario, to where like it was killing her because she was a human.
Hmm. Okay.
Like I don't know if that's how she died or like what the case was. So
Huh? Possibly. Let's talk about Diego and Lila. I love their relationship, man. Like from season 2 when it starts to where it's at right now is really, really cool. Like they have, it's fun to see them on screen together. They have a
they
really
do
good
so
back
well.
and forth, a really good dynamic. Yeah, they look like a couple. Like they act like a couple. They do a really, really good job together. I didn't like Lila really much last season, to be honest with you, but I do like her a lot this season. So, and Stanley, it was interesting. Bringing in the fake son.
Well, when they did the background episode of her being a drummer, like she jumps back in time to go get the emergency suitcase, because like that's the only suitcase that exists anymore after like the commission went dark
Right.
and
And that
all
was
that
one
crap
a
happened.
back door her mom left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then she ended up staying in that timeline because she met the girl, and essentially like it was like she found someone that she could just kind of like pawn her friendship emotion bullshit off on. Of I mean, she lost her mom, like her world was totally crazy, so I'll give her that. But to just pick up a kid like that and run, I mean, like that gets you in some deep trouble.
Yeah. A whole lot. I like Klaus's development. Oh, look, my Umbrella Academy background came on. I have different backgrounds flashing my other monitor, and the Umbrella Academy just came on. So,
I
uh,
loved seeing Klaus again.
one of my favorite characters on the show, hands down. Just so fun to
Love seeing.
watch. Loved his development this season too. He was the glue for everybody. You notice that at some
Yes.
point in time,
Mm-hmm.
he went to everybody and gave them advice that helped them
Yep.
through whatever they were going through. And I mean, I know he's kind of that guy throughout the whole scene, but like it seemed like that was kind of his grasp in this one. And he gets the closure with figuring out the mother, and he's actually got some pretty badass superpowers.
And he got
Like
hit by a car and a bus how many times?
he was playing bus
Yeah.
ball,
God, it was
you
so
know?
funny, like watching him
Yeah,
learn how to do it.
playing bus ball. That's what we called it. Yeah.
But he was a leader of a cult, so I mean, he knew how to talk to people. So maybe that kind of helped him out a little bit.
Funny enough, though, that we have like I don't understand why the father would go through all that trouble of training him and Hargraves, I mean, go through all the trouble of training him and make figuring out his powers, and then just not let him into the oblivion. But I guess maybe he didn't know what the powers were, and he wanted to see if it was worth it. Maybe that's a good excuse, I guess, and he decided it wasn't. So,
Maybe he's sitting there trying to figure out how he can, you know,
Manipulate him.
hell too. He lost his wife, so with if you can reanimate people,
Mm-hmm.
who knows? Like maybe you have a long con there.
good point. Very, very good point. Let's talk about Pogo.
Let's talk about Pogo.
I know I'd seen him in the previews, but I hadn't seen him in this series yet, and I was starting to be like, man, when is he going to come into play? And then almost as soon as I said that, bam, there he was. Pretty cool.
Pogo went from being like Miyagi, Morpheus style, I mean, like a sensei. Like it was like that part was cool, like seeing like that, and then you see him being a tatted up monkey on a chopper. Who would have saw that coming?
Guarded by Tammy. Tammy, let him in.
In a trailer.
Yeah. But no, I like Pogo. It was pretty cool, and I liked how it. You discover then that like although Sparrow Academy seemed like they were evil, and they probably were, did have some nefarious things going on. They were drugging him for a good reason.
Yeah.
Although I wonder how long that one box of medicine would have lasted them that Pogo gave him. Like I had a few bottles in it, but
yeah, I mean, I guess if you used to do them at some point, you can go talk to Pogo and be like, "Hey, we take me to your dealer."
Yeah, figure out some kind of way to replicate it. Yeah, and then let's see. Ben did not like Ben. I know he's supposed to be a dick, but I don't know. I just didn't like him as a dick. Fun, drunk Ben was fun. But just as a character overall, for somebody who hasn't gotten a lot of screen time, and like I said, I get it. He was supposed to be a dick in this series, in this season, and he did a good job of it because I just didn't really like seeing him on screen. I was like, all right, let's get away from this guy.
He kind of had like a. It was definitely more like a male child syndrome of some sort. Like like once the dad was subdued, you had. Oh my lord, what was their version of Luther? Marcus. They had Marcus take over and be the grown up, being the number one, like being in charge of everyone. And then like Ben really had like a complex,
It's almost the same complex that you think Diego has in season 1.
Yeah, totally.
It's very similar to that.
Diego, I love when Allison called him. Was it Bargain Batman?
Yeah. They made a couple references in this one to like mainstream pop culture stuff, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. There's the Batman one. There was something else I can't remember, and I was like, oh, that's. Let's see. What else? Class Family, the Oblivion. Let's talk about the Guardians. 4 Guardians. 3 of them seem to go down fairly easy compared to the last one.
Oh, shoot. Talk about the building. Like the building only existed because he found the energy void that was necessary to have the spot to actually build that.
Right. That was pretty cool. Yeah. That was a pretty cool concept. It is funny because I know that when I see things like Klaus get his fingers cut off, and then there was something else. 5 get his arm cut off. I'm looking at that. I'm like, they got to figure out some kind of way to fix this. Like, I know this is not real now. Like, there's some kind of way to fix, because they're not going to go into next season with one guy missing an arm and one guy. But it is Umbrella Academy. Maybe they would have. I don't know. So we skipped around a little bit, but at the end, when we get to the end, it seems as though they're back in what I guess their prime timeline, but no powers. And there is a bust of Hargraves with a death certificate on it, or a death date on it, and it says he died in 1989. So I'm wondering I'm wondering what in 1989 him being killed would stop them from getting powers. But once again, as soon as they show that bus and they show the kids walk away, which is very strange that they all decide to walk away at that moment. Like, you've been through all this. We don't have powers. Cool. Let's go. And they all just kind of walk away. It zooms up, and that's when you see Hargraves and his wife in that big, tall building. So, like, I'm thoroughly confused with the ending of the season.
Well, it definitely feels like they live in some sort of. I don't know. I always find it funny, like how how Superman has his universe, and Batman has his universe. Like, this is now like the Hargreaves universe. Like, all the buildings are now like, instead of like Wayne Foundation, they are now like all Hargraves. And I don't remember the plaque. I'm trying to remember that. I mean, I remember the moment when everything ends and they all come out of the elevator. And the whole thing feels like a major setup. Like, someone had already known this was going to happen at some point in time. So when they recreate Yeah, like he creates like this sanctuary, and then like they all just magically show up there out of nowhere because that building that was Oblivion was a machine, and whatever he was able to do with that machine put them all in that position where they show back up in Hargrave's land. You know, it's crazy. When they show his face and they show his wife, I'm like, this all makes sense, but I know nothing about it. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know how it makes sense.
Yeah, while I love this season, this finale was great. It just left me with a little bit of like what the hell's
Oh,
going on? You know, like I said, they could have just with a few lines of dialogue, if they didn't show Hargraves at the end with a few lines of dialogue, ended the whole series right there, and I would have actually been happy with this nice little 3-season series with a nice little bow at the end of it. You know, but I'm glad they didn't because I want more of it. You know,
And they all seem powerless too. You know, like Luther's not a monkey man anymore.
he got
Cross
some
doesn't have.
skinny legs, don't he, though?
He's always had skinny legs. He's always
I
been
know.
talking
That's
when you
what,
look at
like,
him.
I don't
I,
know.
I saw him in something else. I can't remember as
Mhm.
an actor playing something else. And like when I saw him, I was like, he looks weird without like. Whenever I look at him with all the stuff on, and I see how small his neck and his face is compared to the rest of his body, I think it looks weird. But then when I
Yeah.
see him without that, I'm like, he looks even weirder without that.
Yeah,
I
because
keep
he's a
having
very
this.
like thin fella.
I have like this like headcanon where like when they gave him the shot, like he still had like a belt and a necklace on, and like he grew everywhere between those two spots.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I think he actually is a fairly big guy.
Yeah.
It's just that we're so used to
He's pretty
seeing him
skinny.
being like an overly big guy. Or
Yeah,
is he
no, I
skinny?
guess you're probably right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, I don't think he's like beanpole skinny, but I don't think he's like Arnold
He's
Schwarzenegger ripped either. I think
yeah.
he's a decently big guy. It's just we're so used to see him so big, he looks tiny when you don't
Yeah.
see him like that.
Yes.
It's like if somebody was 175 pounds, which is not small, but they used to be 300, and they got down to that 100, they'd look so tiny compared to what So kind of like that.
Well, so
Good.
and also I'm sitting here thinking too, like when they were in the building, when you're talking about the whole like what was Reginald's plan, like when he made the deal with Allison, and Allison ended up killing him. Like, yeah, you're right. Like, would the deal have included him dying or him staying alive? Like, yeah, I don't know. So many unanswered questions there.
See, I think that the deal, whatever deal she made
Yeah,
with him, was that. Huh? What happened?
she's saying season 4.
Oh yeah, I think whatever deal she made with him was to get her daughter back and to get Ray back because Ray was not the father of her original daughter, correct?
Mm-mm.
Ray was the father from the second life. So what's just happened is the
Wait,
father.
we haven't seen the
No,
original father.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. But it wasn't Ray. She met Ray when she went back to the 60s. So what just happened was they just combined Ray, her love, with what it was? She was separated from the husband in the first season. Remember, because she was fighting for custody of her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
So what just happened was he combined those two timelines for her. That was the deal. That had to have been part of the deal.
Yes.
Just
See, this is what happens.
Part of the deal. Yeah.
Man.
Okay.
You should just watch the show and kept on with the three episode thing.
Okay. Well, at least we know now what part of the deal was. She got Ray and Chloe, I think was her daughter's name back. So
Claire.
There you go.
That's what it was. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know why that would have stuck with me, but
Hey. Right there. Okay, cool. So I wonder if them not having powers was part of the deal too. Oh, I can't wait for season 4. I can't wait for a whole year from now. Yay.
You hope a year.
Yeah.
I found the part with the whole world ending and them being at the very center of it just a little too on the nose. I think like it was everything's eroding around this one very spot where we're at.
They happen to be the last 7 people on Earth. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can buy it for a fantasy, but at the same time too, like I would have liked to make a little bit more sense.
It's like, how does Five walk out there and he's just like sitting there like on the edge of the street and just legs dangling out, and I'm like, that's just of all of this.
Well, it makes me wonder if we figure out if maybe one day that none of it is even real, like not like that wasn't really the end of the universe. This is all contrived by Hargraves somehow.
Well, yeah, that's what I feel like we're doing. I feel like we're bouncing around from like time frame to time frame, like redoing things over and over and over again until he gets to the results that he wants. I feel like that's what we're doing because in
Well,
order for
didn't
season
five
one
kind of
to,
allude to something along those lines? It's like we're like continuously, saving the world
yeah,
continuously.
because they did it yet again. So
Mhm.
yeah, like it has to be connected to them somehow, some way. Like it makes sense. And I mean, Hargreaves doesn't seem like a dumb man unless you get him all high on pills.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. It's a very interesting show, very well put together.
It's a good watch when you're able to sit down and watch it. Like
Mm.
it's just such a there's shows that I really like that I can sit down and binge. And I do wish that there were more than just 10 episodes. Like it's kind of like you kind of wish you would come on Umbrella Academy like right now to where you could have 3 seasons of it to watch because you're like
Mhm.
you just go through like all 3 of them super fast
Mhm.
because you go through one of them super fast.
That's what it is. That's why my wife's waiting to watch it. She wants to be able to sit down and watch like 4 days straight of Umbrella Academy and be surprised the whole time. She's
I
waiting
think
for
that's how I did
season 4 to come out.
season one because it took me a minute to like actually get into it. I don't think it was like until like halfway through because I was like, it really clicked with me. And then once I finished it, I think that's when season two came out because I remember sitting on this couch right here and I watched the whole damn season two.
I think I remember you talking about that, how it didn't really catch you in the first few episodes, and then I think me and Nathan were like, "Just keep watching, just keep watching." It's it's
Yes.
it's so it's
And
it's definitely a
the
good show.
music, man,
The
like
music is phenomenal.
it's so good. This season they had I know they had an XX song. I used to be real big on them. I like the first album they came out with, but they did Jeremy Renner, his version of House of the Rising Sun,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
and they did it at the end of one episode, and it was really good. That
Okay.
sticks out for me. But they have good music all around.
Yeah, it's definitely one thing that's always stood out with this show is the music in it.
I mean, they
Oh.
had like the dance off from like the very beginning. I'm like,
Yeah.
what?
Oh, it's so stupid. It was so good.
They had two really, really good moments. Yeah, the Footloose moment at the beginning of this, the very beginning of the season, and then the wedding, where they were doing the Dirty Dancing song. Klaus and Five were doing the Dirty. And let me tell you something, man. That actor who plays Five, I don't know. I need to look up this guy, like see how old this kid actually is. But he does such a great job of playing an actual adult. Like he looks like an adult kid.
Yeah, they got to hurry up though because I'm going to tell you he's aging.
Yeah, I guess
mean-
because I'm watching. If I go back and watch season one, I probably will notice that. You're probably right, but I haven't noticed it because I'm progressing with the show. It's just that kid's such a great actor, man. He's gonna be. I have a feeling he's gonna have a lot of success in the future.
He's one of the Gallaghers. That's what I was saying. He's related to one of them does music for the show. I think it's Noel Gallagher does music for the show.
From Oasis,
But
yeah.
one of the Oasis dudes.
That's cool, man. I mean, like I said, he's an awesome actor. I think he's the best actor on the show. To be honest with you, I think he's kind of the lead character of the show.
Well, it's like you
If I had
said,
to
he's
pick one
like,
person that was a lead,
it's like he says, he's like, I may not look like it, but I'm old enough to where, my experience tells me this is not right,
Not
or
right.
this is, he's such an old. He's even though he looks young, he's such an old man.
yeah.
He's like a little
He's
old
retired.
curmudgeon.
Or he's trying to retire.
Oh, what's funny is when he sees himself where he's 100 years old, it's like, did you actually stay still long enough somewhere where you could age that much?
Yeah.
Because that's the real question. Because the rest of your family's grown up, just so you know.
Yeah. At some point, you just jump to being like go from 5 to 100. Be like, yeah, I already done this plenty of times. Like I'm good.
Yeah.
Just
But wasn't
take
he
my
missing
arm,
an
give me a
arm?
tattoo. Mm-hmm.
Not at the end of after the universe is reset. He's not.
I'm talking about but when he was
When he
his
was the
older
old one,
self.
yes. That's
He
how
was
he found the
missing-
clues because at that point in time, he was missing the arm and he had the tattoo from Pogo.
Uh-huh.
That's why he had to go get the tattoo from Pogo
To
then he
complete
ended
the
up
loop.
losing
I
the
remember
arm.
said that, but I didn't think about the losing the arm thing. Yeah, you're right. He was missing the arm when he was older, but I didn't think about him. So okay,
But
So
all that
now-
doesn't matter now because now you're in a new timeline.
Okay, so that whole thing of him being 100 years old in that cryogenic tube and that thing never happens now.
It may not happen the same exact way. It may happen, but it may happen in a different manner.
Greg's head just went,
Like,
I gotta do it. I'm
Oh
gonna
my
come up
God.
with the smoke thing for you. It's just gonna like your screen's gonna slowly start to fry.
it's crazy, man. It's
Does
hard to
not
roll.
compute. Does not compute.
Look, I love this show.
yeah.
Sounds like y'all do too. I give this one a big thumbs up. Season 3 for me, 1 through 10. Just because I didn't understand the ending fully, and it may not be me understanding it, maybe exactly where they want me to be at. I'm going to give it a 9. Really enjoyed it. Only I can't remember if there were any things about it that I saw that I was like, oh, I question that, but nothing that made me like write it down. So it could have been that bad, whatever it was. So I'm gonna give it a 9 because it definitely wasn't perfect. But it was really damn good. What y'all think? 1 through 9.
1
Putting you
through
on the-
9.
Yeah, 1 through 10. Sorry, putting you on the spot. 'Cause I didn't even ask y'all beforehand.
Once again, I really like the first one. I think that probably just short timers nostalgia wise, the first one holds up a little bit better for me. I do like the progression. I like what they're doing with the characters. And I mean, look, the show's not a stunner, but it's just a real good watch. And I feel that the first season was probably, I don't know. I say season 1, season 3, season 2, as far as like where I would probably rate them, but I don't know if I can give it a 9. Like season 1 may have been like an 8 or a 9, 8.5.
Okay.
And so this one's probably like a 8.
Okay.
Maybe
Solid
7.5.
score. I'll take that.
Yeah.
I'd watch something you called an 8. Giving it an 8 as well. I like it. Good scores. I can't complain with those.
I mean, I love it. I mean, there's probably
Yeah.
some things like season 3. I'm just like kind of on the fence about. Maybe some of like I said, like with Allison, I'm like, did you really need to go that? And then having like. And like I said, having 5 sitting on in the street, I'm just like, that's just really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But the
It's
weirdness
just
is what
really-
makes this show work.
I know, I get that.
Yeah.
Right.
No. I mean, like that's what, like, even with like me saying that it's an 8, like it's an 8, but it's the
But there's
weirdness
just
of the show.
there's just
that
certain
is the good
elements,
part.
and it's just there's some things I'm just like, but it's still, I think, it's a solid 8.
Well, for me, what it is, I like to try to judge like how much I like things. Like I see something, and it takes me a little while to kind of intake it and kind of analyze what I've seen, think about some of the stuff I had questions about, and I also think about like the next day or the next couple days, how much I think about this, how I can't, like if I can or can't get it out of my head, how much I talk to other people about it. Like went and saw Thor. We're going to talk about Thor here in a minute, but I know like the next day, like I only know a few people who had seen it, but I wanted to talk to people about it. And there were people that I was talking to about it on spoilers, and I couldn't get it out of my head all day.
Mm-hmm.
I think had I not watched Umbrella Academy the day after that, it probably would have continued on with Thor. But I enjoyed this Umbrella Academy so much. I watched it yesterday. It's all I've been able to think about today. The music, the episodes, the scenes, everything. It's all I've been able to think about. I'm like, well, I really like this show, because even up to the point of us airing, I just been music in the background. I had earworms, man, like all day long. So this show just stands out for me, and that's for me why it's so high. Like it stands out, man. Like I wish so badly I could get Ashley to watch this show, because I think she would really like it if she got into it.
Well, to me, it's so bingeable. That's the thing about
no
I
pogo
like
cut.
it. Yeah, that's what I love about it. It's just, I started it and I'm like, I want to finish it. I want to finish it. I want to finish it. That kind of thing. It's just that's what it's always been. It's what it's always been for me.
And there's plenty of other shows like this that I enjoy doing that same exact thing with. I think that Umbrella Academy just stands out quite a bit because it really is good.
Yeah.
I feel like it's unfair to compare everything on like a straight across the board 1 through 10 scale, because I mean, like you got some things that are like if you can't say that your favorite, like for me, like my favorite Marvel or Star Wars film is like a 10. Because I mean,
Mhm.
like for me, like it's hard to say anything's a 10. Like there's still some other things that are really cool that you'd like to see in it. Some things you didn't quite understand, but also at the same time, I mean, uh, just watching the show, like you can't take away the moment that you had and the feelings that you had when you were watching it. Like,
Well, case in point. Case in point. Like I said, watch Umbrella Academy. I'm watching Stranger Things right now. I enjoy Stranger Things. Don't get me wrong, but I can't sit through and binge. I'm in season 3 right now, and I'm like, the fuck is going on? I
Mhm.
get what's going on, but still, I'm
Right.
like, I need a minute. I need a minute to just kind of step back and kind of understand or just kind of absorb what in the hell my eyes have seen. Umbrella Academy is not like that. It's like I
Yeah.
can follow it. It's like I can follow the story. I can follow. It's not like a.
and that's why we keep going back to that argument all the time. What's a good show to binge?
Exactly,
And
and
what's a
that's what
good
I'm saying.
show to
It's
come out week to week?
you're not
Mhm.
saying one's better, one's not good, or one's better than the other. It's just some of them you can take in all one sitting.
Yep.
Some you have to break up in certain servings. I mean, it's yeah. So I mean that's a good example for me. But like I said, Umbrella Academy has always been one where, like I said, once I got into it, I'm like, I gotta have more. I gotta
Yeah.
have more.
Mhm. Well, and see, I get what you're saying, Ross, about how difficult it is to judge everything on such a linear scale right there, like 1 through 10, because you're right. Like when I think of like a 10, there's not much I give a 10 to, but it is like, Man of Steel, stuff like that, you know? Now, when I would say a 9 and a 10, I would give Man of Steel a 10, I would give Umbrella Academy a 9. But for me, it's on totally different scales. It's how I feel coming out of that movie and how I feel watching that movie, because it's hard for me to compare something like Man of Steel to something like Umbrella Academy.
Exactly. That's the only
But
point I'm trying to make.
yeah. So like when I look at it, I don't really look at it on one line that way. Like, because I may
Yeah.
give something a 10 that's not as serious or not like as, I don't know. I guess if there was something you were watching that was 10 seasons long, giving that an overall 9 would be a lot more weight than giving like a
Mhm.
movie a 9, like a single movie for me a 9, you know? I would think it's more just on single performance of that movie, what I got out of it based on what I was expecting and how I felt at the end, you know?
And that's why I said that I enjoyed season 1, season
Mhm.
3, and probably season 2, because I mean, that's the fairest ranking I can kind of give it is that
Right.
where was I when I walked away from each of the ends of those seasons?
Right. Makes sense. Well, have y'all heard anything about season 4? Is there any news out about it yet that y'all know of? Like I said, I've got my finger on the pulse, but this one slipped away from me.
I don't know if they really said a whole lot about it.
Okay.
I don't know. It's weird. Like they shot this whole thing during COVID, and this was one of the shows that was like, I think that it started filming and then they had to stop filming, or
Okay.
they were getting ready to film and they never ended up doing it for like however many months afterwards. But without, the, I think there's a lot of things that were in limbo at that point in time. This show is falling prey to not quite having. I don't know. Like it always ends up in the top 10
Yeah.
on Netflix, so it seems weird that I guess they haven't done it yet. Cause they knew Stranger Things was going to be 5 seasons, or so they said that they were going to end it on the 5th season. It's strange that they haven't had any news about this one.
Well, I'm sitting here reading it right now. Let's see, what am I on? I don't even know what's a website called What's on Netflix. I don't even know if that means anything. And it says that once they're done viewing statistics for the 3rd season, add relevant information to prove why it will be renewed for. So I guess this is just their opinion, but it says they haven't. At least this source hasn't heard anything yet. So I'm assuming there's probably nothing official out yet about it. But
They've really been. Look, Stranger Things makes them money. It brings people to the platform, and a show like that is easy for them to turn around and say, "Yes, you can have your next season." But with like their whole animation shakeup and like really the fact that they've operated in the red, not the red, but since they've kind of gone down in subscribers, has really caused them to not make any quick jerk reactions to what they're going to renew.
right.
So A lot of things could just be sitting on the table.
Okay, well, actually, and I'm looking at Forbes right now, which is a little more trustful site, and they're actually interviewing the creator of the show, showrunner Steve Blackman, and it says we haven't been picked up yet. I have my fingers crossed, but I know what season 4 is in my head. I've already sort of worked out the beginning, the middle, and the end of it. When I started this thing, I sort of knew the seasons of the show. I have nothing past that in my brain beyond. But I've sort of kept a trajectory. So I have a really good sense of the season 4 would be so far. It should be really bonkers, just like the other seasons. And what a challenge for these superheroes. His family's been powerless. So nothing yet, but he's fingers crossed. And I guess he's got something in the chute for season 4. He's got plans.
So he just needs someone to say, hey, go write it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. All right, and it says Umbrella season the cliffhangers for the end of season 3 is them without powers, missing members, Reginald Hargraves, and their hateful alien father ruling the city as a business tycoon. So that's what we're left with. Good summary of it. I'm ready for 4 already. Hope we get it. We'll get some news. I'm sure we will. I really do think this one will be coming back. Everybody I know that's seen it loves it. I've never heard anybody say they didn't like it, except for my wife.
And I've heard across all ages, like it does a pretty good job being able to span. It's not. A lot of parents don't really worry a whole lot about their kids watching it, like preteen teenagers.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything really out of bounds.
Yeah,
I can't do it. There's no nudity, no real cussing, not a lot of sexuality at all. So
I mean, I don't know unless it's cool watching someone like Klaus on screen, but I don't know if you want to raise a mini Klaus in your home.
Sure. Good point. Yeah. No.
All right. Hey, go start a cult.
Well, he's the fun uncle. He's the fun uncle. Let you drink and smoke. So. All right. Well, let's wrap up Umbrella Academy for probably another year if they get renewed. So we'll see what happens. But hopefully we'll get some news soon, and we'll find out if we get it back.
I remember when the first one came out. It feels like it was it 2018?
It was 2018 because it was. It was exactly when I started this first show we covered on this show. Yep. It was In-Game and Umbrella Academy. What the show started on. So maybe that's why I have such a love for this one. I'm not sure. But
such a time to be alive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. All right, well let's move on then. Let's hop out of finales. Let's hop into Marvel's. Look, both of y'all just like perked up a little bit. It's midnight where we're at. It's past midnight we're at. And I started just brought up the fact that we were going to talk about Thor, and both Sarah and Ross both just like sat up in their chair like, oh yeah, here we go. Ross, I got to see it with you, man, and I know you were super excited for this movie. It was really cool to be able to watch it, and then like as I'm watching it and I see a moment that I like or is funny, and to look over at you and just see like the joy on your face as you're watching.
Did y'all have little bro moments?
We did. Aww. Yeah, we did.
We held hands. We shared an arm rest.
As soon as Korg told us how to do it, we were holding hands the rest of the way. So
yeah.
I'm not expecting any babies, Emma.
Look,
holding comments.
I knew going into this movie that it was going to be more Ragnarok. Now, Ragnarok was not my favorite version of Thor. However, I did like the movie. It was a good movie. And I think that since Ragnarok, they've been building Thor more into that jokey kind of character. Because Hemsworth, I said it right. Because Hemsworth
you got it.
There you go. I'm conscious about it now every time I say it. Because he carries that comedic role so well. I'm okay with it. Like I'm okay with this movie. Going into this movie, I didn't know what to expect. It was said from Natalie Portman to be the gayest Marvel movie to date. I can agree with her that this was the gayest Marvel movie to date. However, at no point in time in this movie did I feel like hit over the head or over the top or anything like that. So that's what I was afraid of. I was afraid of forced stuff, and I didn't feel that. Nothing felt out of place. Nothing felt over the top. Nothing felt like they were beating this into my head. Like, this is what we're wanting to do. It worked. Everything in this movie worked for me. Well, I have one issue with the movie that we're going to talk about. But everything else for this movie worked for me so far. I love the music. Love the story. It was Ragnarok with a better story. It just seemed a little rushed. I felt like the movie could have been a little longer and been okay. But other than that, Really, really enjoyed this thing. Ross, overall thoughts, man.
I said coming out of it that the movie was just fun.
Mhm.
I had to look at my watch and then my phone for like one point in time because I didn't want to. Like I got a text message and I was like I had to read it real fast, and so I'm like, but shit, I was like, we're almost done with this movie. Like where is the time gone? Like
Mhm.
we spent the time laughing, and I, we can kind of break it down bit for bit when we get there, but it was you're right. It was everything. I mean, the music was perfect. Chris Hemsworth is just a fun guy. Period. Like even
Mhm.
when he's not in that role, I watched a movie with him on Netflix, that Spiderhead movie. He just wanted to be like a fun character in that until you realize he got to a point where he needed to be the dramatic character.
Mhm.
I, how do you not enjoy it? I
Mhm.
mean, the goats, the like every bit of it was just so much and so. It was just a fun time. The story doesn't mean a whole lot. Like they picked on some serious aspects, they really did. Like, and I think that the trade offs that they were really making between the humor and uh, the parts of the storyline and how they affected you were major. And I think that they worked really well together for me.
Mhm. Yeah. Sarah, you're fresh out of the movie, right? Just saw it a few hours ago. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thoughts?
I actually like Ragnarok better,
Ooh.
but
Okay.
there were some moments in this movie that it kind of caught me off guard, especially like the opening scene, and then also the end. Because first I'm like, and then the end I'm just like, Claire looks at me,
Huh.
it's like, "Mom, you all right?" I'm like, "Mind your business. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'll be fine." I mean, it had some moments in it, but then again, it had some really comedic moments too. And like I said, I don't know why. It's because I walked out, I was just like, I like Ragnarok better. I don't know if I can really put my finger on why,
Mhm.
but I don't know if it was. I think I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong; it's a great popcorn movie. I mean,
Mhm.
it's. I'm gonna probably watch it. I don't know however many times whenever it comes out on Disney Plus. We're just gonna. I mean, I think Gage gave it a 4 out of 5, which was really good because he woke up this morning going, "We're gonna go see Thor today." I'm like, "Okay, boy." Anyways, all right, calm down. So, I don't know. It was really fun. I mean, it was definitely a Taika Waititi movie.
Mhm.
And those damn screaming goats. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, and honestly, that was the screaming goats, Ross. Like I was telling you in theaters, that was what was in that last trailer that came out the right before the movie, and so I saw that, so I knew that was coming. I mean,
Well, I remember seeing
still was hilarious, but yeah.
I remember seeing something pulling the boat, but I didn't know what it was. I didn't realize they were like
Well, they
literally.
showed him actually screaming in that last trailer. Like they showed the
Okay.
joke of them being given to him. Like
Uh-huh.
they showed that whole spoiled that whole joke, and I was like, oh okay. When I got there, I was like, ah. So, but it was still funny. It was they positioned the screams well because it's always funny to see a goat scream.
God, they were
It
funny
really is.
every single time for me. Like
They're
I
so
don't.
big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's Tooth Gnasher and Tooth something else. I mean, like they're big in the comic book run. So I mean, like
Yeah.
they're there. Like
It's
it's not
legit.
something
Yeah.
they just completely made up. Um. Oh, what was I gonna say? I know I was gonna make a point to your liking Ragnarok better, but the all of the commercial based stuff that they had for this was
Yeah.
all really early in the movie, and I appreciate that.
Mhm.
I really appreciated that, even though I knew like there was going to be like the black and white scene towards the end, and I knew that they were going to have certain standoff moments, and like we saw
Mhm.
the part in Omnipotent City. Still, to me, it felt like most of the advertisement stuff was from the beginning,
Mhm.
and I really like that. I was like, good thing they didn't spoil like more than enough that was necessary. But
Yeah.
the movie went by so fast that like it kind of felt like like it was all in there scattered throughout the movie, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, is
I
it
know
just
the one
because
that
like it was laughing the whole time? Like I don't understand it.
the one thing Brian did say, he's like, "Man," I was like, "I know Axl Rose, he got a pretty damn penny for that shit because all the music and all the product placements He even
Mhm.
caught some stuff I didn't catch. Even had a character using the name. I was like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm like, go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, look, one thing about this movie that I thought going in, I didn't watch a lot about it, and I tried not to have a lot of expectations. And it showed in this movie, a scene that I leaned over to Ross and asked him a question about too, that I bring up right here is I thought for sure, with having the God Butcher, with bringing in a new female Thor, that Thor was gone, and this movie, he was going to die in this movie, like it was going to happen. So, did not happen. And you can ask Ross, we were probably 20, 30 minutes in the middle. Like after all the jokey stuff's out of the way, because the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie is a lot of jokes and it's almost pushed a little too far, but they reel it back right before they start to lose you. Then after that, like you said, Ross, it's out of the way and it starts to get into some more serious stuff. There's still jokes, but not nearly as much. I leaned over to Ross and I was like, because at that moment, I couldn't think of any moments that I had seen in the previews that I hadn't seen yet. I was like, okay, everything I've seen in the previews, I think I've seen, but I forgot about the black and white stuff. I was like, everything I've seen. So I thought about it. I was like, oh no. I was like, they're gonna kill Thor early in this movie. Like he's gonna be dead early. I leaned over to Ross. I was like, do you think he dies early in this movie? Because that could be a possibility. Because Marvel will do that. Marvel had Thanos die in the first 10 minutes of Endgame. You know, so they'll
Yeah,
do
but they
that
had
kind
him
of
in there
stuff.
too.
Yeah, they had him in there too. Yeah, but I thought about that and I was like, oh man, I was like, because at that point I thought he was still going to die. I was like, God, they may kill him really early off. The only thing that kind of tipped me off from that was as soon as I found out that Jane had chemo, I was like, well, there's a good possibility she's going to be the one who dies too. So as soon as Thor didn't die in that moment, I was like, okay, Jane's going to be the one who dies. So I didn't like the idea as much of Jane taking over as Thor, even if it was just for for the future. Like it just didn't sit well. Now the direction they're going now with the story they've given you, with the little girl with Gore's daughter at the end, which by the way is Chris Hemsworth's daughter. That's his daughter in real life. Um, I'm okay with this story of him training her and her progressing and her growing into Thor. That's cool. I like this idea and I like how they're building that. That's nice. I don't know why something just didn't sit right with me if it was going to be a permanent thing with Jane Foster.
It can't
Yeah.
be. I mean, Jane Foster, the line that they've been pulling off of this whole time, which we knew going into this movie, was the cancer one. Like it was the one where the whole reason why she had it was because of it. The comic book line was if she was using Mjolnir, it was saving her but killing her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Killing her mortal
And
self. Yeah.
so, which I thought months ago that this is quite possible. My vision of this happening was her coming from a different universe.
Mm.
Clearly, all of that got steamrolled into someone else's pocket because I fell prey to that whole theory. But it's funny. It's funny because there's outtakes like from Ragnarok where Hela shows up in a where is it? They're like in an alley somewhere in like New York,
Mm.
and like the whole scene takes place there. But then in the movie Ragnarok, they moved it to Norway, and like now you see the lasting effects of that one simple decision. Not only were they able to bring half of Asgard that survived to Norway to give them the new Asgard,
Mm-hmm.
to create this wonderful place that they've created, but the hammer was sitting there on the place that it actually landed. Like it had not moved since that point in time. And like I said, like they had dug up around it to actually create that little place. You got that face? Go ahead, say it. What did you get?
This was one of my things that I thought about, and I was like, well, they did some good thinking with this, but I don't know if they quite got it right, and it could be me getting it wrong. I'm not sure. I like the idea of having the pieces of Mjolnir there broken, and them having to build around it because they can't lift the earth that it's under. Right? Didn't Mjolnir get broken up on Asgard? That got destroyed.
Mm-mm.
You
No, it got
sure?
broken up right there. Yeah, because Doctor Strange transported Thor and Loki after Loki was falling for 30 minutes to where Odin
Okay.
was, and Odin was sitting on that stone in Norway.
Okay, well, let me check
Where
that off
that's
my
where
list then of something I thought was wrong. There you
he
go.
created that whole. That's where that whole line was derived from. It's like this
Okay.
could be home, and like
Well, then
this
they
ended
did a
up being
great
home.
then they did a great job of showing them building it around. I
Yeah.
like that. I liked the Mjolnir story in this. I liked it calling to her, and I could have bought it calling to her without them explaining it, but I'm glad they did. Where they give that one moment where he tells it, he's like, "Always look
Yeah.
after her," and I was like, "Okay, I'm glad they put that in there. That's cool."
That flashback scene with their relationship, I
That
was
flashback
like,
scene, and we needed that.
this is so
We
good.
needed that. We did
It's
badly
so.
because all we ever heard is, "Well, it's complicated."
It was
Mhm.
very much off of the. Did you ever see those shorts? They're on Disney Plus now, but they're the was it the Thor and Daryl shorts, where Thor moves into a house in like Australia and becomes like
Oh yes,
Daryl's
yes,
roommate,
I've seen those. Yeah.
right? And so Daryl was the one in the movie. He was the guy that was talking about Mjolnir right there before she ended up putting it back together.
Oh really? Okay.
He was the tour guide guy,
Okay.
but that's what um, that look on the relationship reminded me of. Like it was very much done in that regard,
Mm,
to where it's like that was fun. Thor, like Thor didn't really care what was going on anywhere else. Like he was literally there in the moment with him and Jane, and it felt real because it felt like that's why you would love somebody,
hmm.
because you did all that kind of stuff with them. But then it
Right.
really showed like the struggle of like their two lives and where they were moving on to and like separating because they were becoming different people. Like that shit felt real.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
A lot of
he just wanted to be shitty to her, you know. I mean, that's a great line too. No, you're right. I love the relationship, and like I said, we needed that. I really did because it, you didn't get enough of their
bingo.
loving relationship in what you've seen before to
Mhm.
believe that it's as strong as it is.
Yeah.
Other than maybe being a first like true love type thing. Um, Sarah, what'd you think of the Matt Damon cameo? Cool, we got that again, right?
Which one?
Yeah, I'll tell two of them. Yeah, but really, really cool that we got that
Well,
again.
I
And
mean,
him.
like I said, it just kind of gave with the like with the new Asgard, as far as like the commercialism,
Hmm.
because it's like you had because isn't that Hemsworth's brother
Mm-hmm.
The
as
other one is,
Thor,
yeah.
and then you had Damon, and then of course he had Melissa McCarthy as Hela, which I was like,
That was awesome.
and then oh God, what's his name? All I can think is Alan as oh God, what's his name? Anyways, as oh shit, I can't think of nothing right now. It's getting
Are you
late.
talking about Odin?
Yes,
Well, I keep thinking Sam Neill played Owen.
it is Sam Neill.
Odin.
That's it.
Is it
That's Sam
Sam
Neill.
Neill?
Oh,
Okay.
is it Sam Neill from Jurassic
Yeah.
Park?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Really?
So it's like you
Wow,
have
okay.
them back. So I was like, oh my God. But like I said, Melissa McCarthy popping up as hell. I was like, oh my God, that is the shit.
It was so fucking good.
Yeah.
But like I
Oh,
said,
yeah.
it's just like that commercialism. And then, when you had all this going down, and then you see Damon and the other fella, and they're like, do you want us to go ahead and write this? And they're like, really? They're like,
Yeah.
"Okay,
She did. I didn't hear a no. I didn't hear a no.
What about Russell Crowe? How'd y'all like his performance?
I didn't.
Didn't.
I
Okay.
didn't. I mean,
Okay.
I get I don't know. I just think it was the accent threw me off. I was like, are you supposed to be like a Greek Guido? I mean, is that what's going on here?
It was the
Yeah.
over the
It was
top
too
funny,
much
I
humor.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I get the, Zeus big and, kind of big and fat, sitting up on his throne, thinking, okay, we're just going to get you. I got that part, but
We're here to talk about the orgy.
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So I'm just like, to me, I just think it just kind of, because Zeus should be something a little bit more than that.
Prestigious.
But I mean,
Like that's what you're
it
looking
was just a
for.
parody. It was literally a parody.
Mm-hmm. Well, and okay.
The opening moment to this film where it brought Gore in as
Mhm.
like I don't understand how he's one person with his daughter, like no one else survives or no one else is around, like we know nothing, like all we know is that he comes from a barren wasteland and he looks like he is on the verge of death and somehow he is getting too much vitamin D but yet no suntan, and the daughter dies. It's a real sad moment. You see where he reaches the same place that mean, like I've seen people reach in real life, like you lose a kid and that's real dark, deep stuff. And like it comes out across heavy. And then you get the douchebag God.
But I'm
First off, I
glad
don't
we had
understand.
that scene.
No, perfect, right? Like it was totally necessary. I don't understand how you magically show up in an oasis like as you've just buried your daughter. It's very weird for that to happen, and I got past that real fast because I understood all that was a transition to give him a moment with the god who apparently just defeated the person with the necro sword, and then it was calling to him.
Mm-hmm. So,
but that god was a douche.
That god was a douche. That guy was a douche, and I'm glad that let's talk about gore while we're here. Okay, so I don't like to listen to. I like to listen to reviews on movies that I see, but I don't like to listen to a lot of reviews until after I've done mine because I don't like a lot of influence on what I'm saying. However, on the way home the other day, it's like a 35-minute ride from the theater to my house. It's 12:30 at night here, but Geekverse right before we left theater had gone live with their review. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'll hop in the chat room and I'll listen to what they're saying on my drive home. And they had brought up a point about gore and about how they didn't see Christian Bale's character beforehand becoming that evil, like how he become that evil that quickly. And I, to be honest, it was like 2:00 in the morning. I just gotten home. I had to cut it off, so I didn't hear the answer or anything they had said about it. But it made me think about it, and so I started thinking about that. And that's why I don't listen to other reviews because I want to have my own stuff I think about rather than what everybody else is talking about. I don't want to copy anybody or anything. But I did want to bring this up because it leads to a point that I had. I feel like in that moment, he was a person. When after his daughter dies and he realizes that everything he's living for is a lie, that's the moment where he wasn't an evil person, but he just was evil enough or hurt enough or vulnerable enough for the necromancer to recognize and call out to him. Okay. Now this solves a problem that I have later because I don't like villains being talked down, which was kind of the way he was at the end. But if you explain it this way, with the necromancer kind of being in control, then the destruction of the necromancer at the end can be that release for him to come back to the point that he's
like
at.
A curse.
It's
like
a curse.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
So by the end, you destroy the sword, you destroyed a curse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like that little bit of humanity he had left, it came back.
Yep. So I feel like that's how you get to that point where he's that evil. Now, a tweet that I made earlier, the only tweet, man, I never tweet anymore, but I put this out there just to advertise the show this morning. Me personally, after watching Christian Bale's performance, which I thought was phenomenal. I thought he did such a freaking great job of playing a creepy fucking dude, which is what he's supposed to be, right? I put him on a level, and I'll have to watch it again, but with some of my favorite villains of live action. I put him up there with Thanos, and I put him up there with Zod, and I put him up there with Lex Luthor. Like, 3 characters that I've seen in live action with the actors that played them, that portrayed them perfectly, and I completely understand their mindset. It makes me feel bad that I say that. It really does, because it makes me feel evil. But I'm proof that you're not evil if you feel the way they do. If you look at all the characters I just named, and you go back and you truly break down their mindsets and why they're such good villains, they're not wrong. They're not wrong at all. They're just wrong how they're going about taking care of the situation. Their mindset and their reasoning for getting to that point, though, is not wrong at all. They're right. They just shouldn't go about the murderous ways they're going about to accomplish their goal or to fix the problem. Like think
they
about
challenge
it.
your mindset.
Gore being mad at Gore wanting to kill these gods for lying to them is not wrong.
I totally understand that.
That's what I'm saying.
Completely understand
Thanos wanting to take care of half of humanity because it's
Thanos. I didn't.
Stuff.
I couldn't get on board with that.
His mindset's right. There's not enough stuff for this many people in the world. Now,
we
going about killing
eventually.
half the world or half the humanity is not the way to fix it, but he's not wrong. Same way with Zod. Everything he does for the best, for the good of his people. Well, if you're part of his people, you're right behind him. You're right. If Zod was American and he was fighting a war, we'd be right behind everything Zod's saying because he's right. He's doing for the best of his people. He just doesn't need to try to go completely destroy another planet to do it, Like, that's what I'm saying. So, like, these characters are so good because what they're doing or what they're saying is right. They just have a kind of a psychotic mindset, a wrong way of going about fixing it. And I'm putting Christian Bale and Gore right up there with it, man, because he did such a great performance. Sorry, that was very long-winded. My point that I was making.
No, like, dude, I make the same point all the time because people complain about Hela being like a too strong of a villain. But I'm like, but if you think that her being too strong is the problem, then you're kind of missing the point, because the whole point is that she makes Thor question everything about himself. He finds out that he's no longer the firstborn child. He finds out that, you know, his dad had a whole entire life before him, which he clearly knew because they lived to be thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
But it was all about death and destruction. You know, when she says lines like, you know, how do you think this palace got all this gold and like all this other crap? Like, I'm kind of with you, Sarah. Like, I'm not sure which one I like more. This one's fresh in my head and it is funny. But at the same time, like, Ragnarok has a special place in my heart. Like, especially with playing Led Zeppelin. I'm like, I like Guns N' Roses, but those Zeppelin beats, those Zeppelin drops were perfectly timed, and seeing him lose the hammer and become like, you know, basically shedding the skin of the old Thor to the new Thor. Like, Hela was that vessel to make that happen. And so now with Gore, it's what they did is he's able to step it up by making it not just about Thor. It made Thor question a lot of things about himself, because I feel like that's the only reason why they didn't make the other gods look as prestigious, was because they needed some gods to question whether or not Gore was right. And I feel like that's what Hemsworth was doing, because he already stepped away from being king of Asgard. So then he wanted to be the guy who was just helping people, which the Guardian scenes were funny as hell too. Like, thank God they were short, but they were so funny. You need Thor to come to that realization, because like he would in the comic book. Is what I'm doing right? Like, am I serving my people the right way? He stepped away from serving his people, so that was already kind of personal for him. But I do hate the fact that we didn't get good gods that weren't on, you know, like they didn't come out and help him. Like, I'm all for like the kids scene and like what they did at the end, and you know, like that's great for future Disney fans and Marvel fans and whatever else, because it was tastefully done. Like, it was fun. You know, playing that nice little end riff of November Rain. There you go. Thank you. I love that guitar riff every time it comes on. It's such a long song that when you get to that point, you forget about it, and you're like, oh yeah, out of nowhere. And that's what that scene felt like. And it was cool to see him to use his power to create better views of gods in. I mean, unfortunately, they're already kind of gods themselves, but that's what I guess the whole scene with them saying that they weren't Asgardian, that they were some other species, was kind of like, well, good gods do exist. And I do wish that there was more prestigious ones, but I'm going to tell you right now, with that after credit scene.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. That was a crazy one. Actually, talk about it. I don't care. We're not going any kind of order. Talk about it.
He's there. He's here. He's there. He's every fucking where. Roy Kent. You gotta watch, because you haven't watched Ted Lasso. I've only been saying it for months and years on it.
I don't have Apple TV. Okay, that's what it is. I'll say everybody was talking about that. Everybody was like, "Oh, he's in everything," and I was like, well, "I don't even recognize the guy." He kind of reminds me of Bradley
writers of Ted Lasso, but he actually plays the mean, unchangeable asshole in Ted Lasso.
Okay.
And now he's going to play Hercules, and it's going to be so weird to see him play a different role.
I wonder how big, like, this is going to go with Greek gods and Hercules and all this stuff. I
don't imagine that it would go super far. I only hope that it goes a whole lot faster than Adam at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Like, I need more traction, and I need it faster.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to do something with Thor, and Thor said that he'd keep making these movies, and I saw the meme of like some old guy driving in his car saying that he was on his way to go see like Thor 25 or whatever it was. And I'm like, yeah, that'd be me too.
Yeah. Stormbreaker in this one. I didn't see anything in the previews of this stuff because, like I said, I stayed away from as much stuff as I could, so a lot of it was a real big surprise, and I guess it was a big thing in the preview.
Stormbreaker was giving attitude.
Stormbreaker was funny. I mean, rightfully so. You know, he was talking to Mjolnir and kind of, you know, Thunderbolt. He was or lightning bolt. It was lightning. Definitely wasn't thunder. Because
Lightning
thunder's the
bolt.
sound of
Yeah.
lightning. I'm trying to think. I've got my
Stormbreaker was his own character. It was so funny.
yeah.
I love the moment where he's trying to call Mjolnir, and then Stormbreaker's just, "Hey, buddy!"
yeah. Reaches his hand. I loved like I said the bullet effect, like from the broken up Mjolnir.
Oh, the buckshot.
Yeah,
That
was
was
pretty
crazy.
cool.
Yeah.
And it sucks now because I have this like, I love this thing, man. This thing is like movie quality, like gorgeous. It's like
Just don't draw any faces on it.
it's like 6 pounds. Now I gotta figure out a way to crack it to make it look, like
No,
the
you don't.
or,
No, you
or
don't.
just buy one cracked. Yeah.
Dude, there's DIYs on the internet. I've already seen like 6 of them.
Hey, yeah, I was gonna say for anybody who pays the expensive money for the Marvel one, that's plastic. This one's plastic too, but this one's so much better. Just so you know, it's $50 from a guy with a 3D printer. It's the way to do it. Although I don't know how you got the weight in it though. Man, it's heavy. I could kill somebody with this thing. Let's see. Fanboy Clay. Hey, what's up, man? He's in the chat. So he says Thor 5 in the next 3 to 4 years. I can see it.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we got the little title there at the end, title card at the end. Thor will return, so we know he's coming back. Thor 5, the solo movie, and I'm wondering if we get that, if it has anything to do with Hercules, since they set up for that a little bit. Don't know.
I have the vision that Thor will pop in somehow in a team up movie. I don't think he's going to be too crazy big. He could. I don't see them using him in Armor Wars anyway. He has the potential to drop in so much, but I mean, he's totally going to have his own movie.
Yeah.
Easy, super fast. And if they don't use Hercules as like a comeback move, or like, like I'm not too versed in Thor's big enemies until like they really start making the rounds of discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And when you kind of use the God Butcher in this one, then you start bringing out another god that could go toe to toe with Thor. Like, I mean, yeah, his sister, yeah, Loki, but I don't know. Like I imagine you have to go in a direction that it could turn into a cool team up.
Yeah.
Because
That's
why
the thing
not?
about
Why would you
Hercules,
not?
though. Hercules is not a god; he's a demigod.
I mean, yeah, but
That's the thing about it, because if you start mixing the mythologies, I get a little picky over that, because Greek mythology is something I pretty much grew up reading, and I get a little picky over that. It's like I said, that's why I got issues with the Zeus. So I'm like, that's just one of my little nitpicks.
like I said, they needed more prestigious gods in this movie, but
There are
I
Ares
understand
in
why
there.
they did it. Yeah, Ares would be the fun one, like
There are Ares in
the
there.
pissed off one. Like, let's just kill people.
Yeah, throw Athena in there. I'm sure she'd love to go toe to toe with Thor.
I think they might be trying to steer away from some of the characters that have already been seen on DC on screen, because this area is a little gray for me.
Yeah,
Fanboy
gray.
Clay's in the chat room. He might know. I don't really understand how DC and Marvel can both use Greek gods and Roman gods,
Because there's no rights over it.
but there's got to be rights. There's got to be, dude. There's rights to Winnie the Pooh. There's got to be.
It's
rights,
like saying
you know?
God in a movie. I mean, when you're using it as a noun, doesn't make that much of a difference. When you're using it as a pronoun, there's no control over that.
Okay, you're probably right. You could be right. I don't know. It just seems like somebody would own the rights to like using them as storied characters.
It's cultural.
Well, how about the animated Hercules? You had them all up in there.
That's true. Let's see. Clay says he loved everything about Jane, just wished the helmet CGI was better. Helmet CGI didn't really bother me. One thing I did notice about Natalie Portman is she's
those helmets are practical.
She's starting to get a little older, just naturally, but she did look like knockout gorgeous when she like was in Thor mode. Like the makeup, everything. It was just like wow, like beautiful.
It gave her everything. I mean, she went from being cancer out of the uniform and then putting the uniform on. She was hair out of nowhere. I mean, like that hair doesn't exist when she's got like
Mousy Brown.
I didn't even.
What do you call it? I don't know.
You
You know what to call it.
I didn't even think about that length of the hair changing, but it did. Dang, that's crazy. I don't know, man. I thought she looked good in the suit. I will say I didn't like Thor's suit as much as his other suits. It didn't look like terrible. Like I didn't hate it,
It's too
but
bright.
I didn't like the full black suit he had at the beginning, and I didn't
I
like
did like that
the
one.
blue one. I don't know, man. I'm
I
just a
like the
classic
beginning
like
one.
silver armed armor, suit, I guess.
I mean, that dude's got arms that sweat 24/7. They're not
That's the
going to
thing.
cover that shit
I
up.
had no problem
Sure.
with like
You'd
the.
probably want to show those off if you had them. Yeah.
Hmm.
Go ahead. Let's talk about the scene. The flick scene. He flicked too hard, right? That was great. It really
I
was.
was not
And
expecting the tattoos.
I love the react. Yeah,
The
tattoos
tattoos
are
were
great.
so good.
The tattoos
Oh,
are great,
yeah.
and I love the reaction to it afterwards. Where he's talking about it. He's like, "Yeah," and I was just there naked. He's like, "I'm cool with that. You cool with that?" And he's like,
Mhm.
"Gorg." He's like, "Oh, I'm fine with it. I loved it." They're like, it's great. Like the timing was perfect and everything. I was like, okay. There were points in this movie that had me like rolling laughing. Like the timing was perfect on some of the comedy. Like I said, there were some points where they felt like they were pushing it just a little too far. Like, for instance, his little speech about the hooligans and everything with the Guardians. I was like, okay, this is a little long. Let's wrap it up. Like I get the whole voice and the thing he's doing, but let's wrap up this little speech. It just seemed a little long for me, and I was like, okay, I get what he's trying to do. But I don't know. Other than that, man, I really enjoyed the comedy in this movie. Otherwise, like I said, Hemsworth showed me a ton of range, and he's one of these characters that can turn it on like in an instant because like you even see it whenever he's before Zeus. Like the moment he's sitting down, he's jokey. When he's talking to him, he's smiley and kind of jokey. And then like the second that he realizes Zeus is not taking him serious,
Hmm.
he changes to Thor, like the Thor that I like, the authoritative Thor, like fucking do this. And he's just got so much range. So I'm getting more used to a little more jokey Thor. So it worked for me. This movie was
That's what all
really, really good movie.
makes all the difference too. Is I mean, like it's him, it's everyone that he's using to help him in whatever like path of acting that he's doing. It's the direction, it's the writing, it's all of it. Like it,
Mhm.
all of it is coming together for him, and he's able to make it work very well. And like, something that I have gotten from this that I don't get from other movies is the level of fun that they have behind the scenes. Like there has been so much stuff that just pops out of nowhere where it's like people putting things on their social media account now that they weren't able to put on there like however many months ago. Uh, all of the clips that I've seen, everything that's behind the scenes seems so much fun. Like they're screwing off, but they're doing it to a point to where like they're not getting out of control.
Right.
They're just having fun between cuts. Like when they're like the crew's working and they're backstage chilling and doing interviews. Are going to show up on the rounds somewhere. It seems like it's so much fun. It comes across in the movie.
I love seeing that, and you're right. It does with a lot of stuff. Like you can tell the chemistry of the characters, how well they get together off screen, as to how well they'll play together on screen. What bothers me is about how when people talk about how difficult actors' lives are and how difficult it is to film movies. I get it. Sometimes it is. There's certain roles, like certain actors will lose 20 pounds for a role, 30 pounds for a role, gain 20 pounds for a role.
Christian Bale.
And it shows. Honestly, he's one of the best actors out there. Every role I ever see him in, he's fantastic in. So like, and it shows and that kind of stuff. For the most part, though, when I see behind the scenes stuff of actors, television shows, movies, they're having a really good time. Like I get it. Maybe it's a 16-hour day. Maybe it's a 16-hour day for 5 or 6 weeks for 3 months. Cool. Then you're gonna get
But
the
you're
next 9.
also seeing some of the best moments too. Like you got to understand.
Yeah.
Like I mean, like if someone's gonna be sitting there with their phone out, you're gonna step up your.
You're right.
your
I
fun a
don't
little
know
bit
it.
more.
I don't know it, so I shouldn't
Yeah.
judge it. It's hard not to though.
I
But
totally understand where you're coming from,
yeah.
but what you said is exactly true.
Yeah.
So you've been there, you don't know.
Very, very true. Give me some more stuff. What else do you want to talk about with this one? Valhalla. Or Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Valhalla. Let's talk about Valhalla.
To have that in such a, I love the play and the intermingling, and it's pretty well done. Like there's not really a whole lot that steps on like the Viking religion or like cultural aspects. But to have a hall at the end was just weird. It's cool to see, what's his face show up again, Heimdall.
Mhm.
I just don't know what they're gonna do with it. I mean, like, does that mean that at some point we're gonna get like afterlife flashbacks, or are we gonna get the option for like? There's so many things that you can do that I just don't. I'm not sure what they're gonna do.
I don't think so. I think they simply had that in there to give the cameo from uh what's his name? The guy who plays Amdel
Was
or
it Idris Elba?
Idris
Yeah.
Elba, and to show that Jane went there. I think that's the only. You may never see it again, but I think that's what that was there for, to show that she went there, because they'd mentioned it a couple of times in this movie already. The only way to get there is to die in battle, you know, and it's basically saying you are Asgardian now. You've died in battle. Here's your reward. Here's your eternal reward. So here you go. Fanboy Clay says Jane will become a Valkyrie and will be granted the chance to go to Earth. Well, I could see that.
See, there's all sorts of different things you can do.
Mhm. So yeah, maybe we'll see some of it again then. Trying to think. Oh, here's my question for this right now. Okay. So he wants to get so Gore wants to get Stormbreaker so that way he can open the door to wherever this eternal gate is. So Stormbreaker is the key. It's got to be, right, because Zeus says that he doesn't have the key, but Stormbreaker's got to be the key because it opens the door.
Well,
obviously.
I mean, the key is using like the Bifrost. Like the key is using the
To
Rainbow
get in.
Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Now-
since Stormbreaker's powerful enough to do so, that's how they justify like that being the weapon.
Okay. Now, in this battle, the Necromancer gets destroyed. Okay. It gets trapped in Mjolnir and it's destroyed. He loses his power. They're still in that room. How does he then get to the room with the eternal door?
The doorway appeared to be open.
Right, but he's defeated. If you're Thor and mighty Thor right then, and he's defeated, how do you let him get through that door to go make that wish? How do you not stop him? Is what I'm saying. That was the only thing that stood out in my mind, was like, how did he get through there? Like, he was defeated in the other room. There's no way you let him like crawl in there while your guys are making out or whatever. Like, I saw that and I was like, that could have been different. Like, I don't think that was done really well the way they wrote that out, but I did like the way they portrayed that scene with it just being like all white and, interesting that it's just like a rule. The first person that makes it that gets there gets to make a wish. Does that mean that there are no more wishes ever to be made at that?
I don't know. They've kind of. I mean, I would say no, but it's weird that they've established like this whole wish thing with, like the water too. Like, it's funny how when they had to go get the Soul Stone, that they ended up in this dark place in water with the Soul Stone in their hand, and like here is Jane and Thor and Gore all in this white space that's just sitting on like a bed of water. Like I found it strange to have that similarity, but also too like it's. I mean the relationship between Thor and Jane, especially on Thor's side of it, was very very emotional, and for whenever they reached that end moment to where, Mjolnir's going down, the Necro Sword's pretty much intertwined with it, and Jane's losing it, like having her last moment. Like, I can understand him being super emotional. I can understand him being to that point, and I don't know how Gore made it through the door, if it just sucked him or what the case was. But hey, I mean, it worked out in the end.
I may have just missed it too. I may just need to go back and watch it. And actually, Clay says that in the chat. He says he saw the portal as like the Bifrost. It everyone close to it gets sucked in, and that makes sense, I suppose. Dang it! I had one more thing that I knew for sure I wanted to bring up about this, and now I can't remember what it is.
You were taking notes the whole time. You got things to talk about.
I was, but a lot of things I just short notes, just like don't forget to bring this up, and as soon as I see it, I'll remember. Like as soon as I see what this is, I'll remember it. And for the most part, we talked about the majority of it. Dang, there was one more thing that I wanted to say.
I like bringing Valkyrie back. I thought having Korg there was cool. Korg is always the fun one, like to open the movie and tell the story. Uh, Korg losing his body was just funny. I mean, like for no reason. He's just a face.
Yeah, he still finds love though. So
Yeah, yeah.
Dwayne, you know what? I know what it was. It was I don't remember the point I was going to raise. Actually, me and you went with my friend Keith from work, and Keith was asking me something about it this morning, or we were talking about it this morning, and he brought up a good point. He was like, "So, from what he takes of it, are there only males in Korg's species?"
It sound like.
Like that's the image I got. And then the other thing was, I remember during the movie, there's the moment where,
No, because
you
I
know,
think Korg said his parents, and well, I guess that's true. I don't know if he ever mentioned that in Ragnarok if it was mom and dad.
right? Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It maybe I'm not sure, but he asked me that, and I was like, I'm not really sure to be honest with you. It could be. But the moment where Thor leaves Jane in the hospital, and he tells her not to come, and he leaves, and he takes the lightning bolt with him, and then like Keith Lee never me, he was like, why didn't he take Mjolnir with him? I said, because that's her way to get back, so that way she can sacrifice herself. That's how that's how they write that in. Because there's no other reason he wouldn't take that with him other than for her to use it to come back to sacrifice herself. That was the moment where I knew for sure that she was going to be the one who died if anybody died. I was like, okay.
Yeah,
But
and I don't know if he really had like a full grasp on like how it was keeping her alive or not. Like
he was saying her using it was keeping her alive. That when she used it, it pulled the mortal part out of her. That while she had it, she was healed, but when she wasn't using it, it was,
no,
which
it's
was
kind of like Hulk
interesting
and
too.
Smart Hulk thing. Like if as long as she remained smart Jane Thor, then
Yeah, I would just
like
stay. I
she
would
was
just
good
stay
to
Thor the
go.
whole time. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
I don't
know.
know. Love this movie. Let's see. We had the post credit scene we already talked about with
We'll talk
Hercules.
about the moment with the newfound daughter. I mean, they reach the end, and
Oh yeah,
it's like, what's your guys' take on it? Whenever Jane says, is Jane right that says that she won't be alone
mm-hmm.
to Gore about the daughter. Um, I mean, was she doing that for Thor? Like, I did. Like, what's the point of view on that? Like, we know that Gore has to make a smarter decision so that Gore doesn't like destroy all gods because like if he makes that wish, then like boom, dead. But if he really wants his daughter to come back, I mean, like, how much faith in that moment do you have to have in whoever's telling you like she's gonna be okay? And if one of you is on your deathbed, pretty much about to die, like, where's your mindset at with that? What would you think?
I mean, you're just kind of passing a kid off onto me. Like here, take
Yeah.
this. I'm not going to be here, but go ahead and take this. I think that was the importance of establishing the relationship with Thor and Jane to begin with, because I think what the image you're trying to get from it is that they wanted to be able to settle down and have a normal life and have a family. Now that she's dying, this is the closest thing to that she can have. I mean, think about it, this guy's lost his girlfriend, his planet, his mom, his dad, his brother.
His
All
brother, his brother, his brother.
Yeah, his brother, his
Yes,
brother, his
multiple
brother.
times, which I
So,
was not appreciative of that moment.
so he's lost a lot. Oh yeah. So I'd imagine that if she has a mindset of it, she's maybe thinking that this is a part of me that you can take with you, or at least whenever you'll always remember me as long as she's here. Never be alone type thing. Something like that. I don't know. It is
Like,
kind
this
of
is
it is
something
kind
that
of
you
crappy of her
need in
just to
your
pass them
life,
off. Huh?
or this is something that you need in your life. So, like, here's your opportunity to take it.
Yeah. I mean, it is kind of crappy if we just pass it off. But one of the themes that of the story was needing love.
Mhm.
So, like you said, yeah, maybe that's what it is. Is she saw that he needed something to love because otherwise he doesn't have anything. I remember one of the points I want to bring up too. When they're trying to build an army, they go to the Zeus and all the gods, an omnipotent city or whatever it is, and they try to build an army. You just call it guardians. Like seriously, you just left an army 20 minutes ago. Why don't you just call the guardians and be like, hey, I know there's like 15,000 things going on. But this one's a little more important because the universe is about to end. Come this way. They probably couldn't
Yeah, I
afford. They
mean,
probably couldn't afford the budget to cost a lot of money to get all the Guardians back. That's why. That's why Gamora. That's why like 3 or 4 of the Guardians like had one line, if anything, and the rest of the time they're like literally standing there, not even moving. Like if you look, what's the one Guardian with the antenna thing?
Mantis.
Mantis. If you look at the scene she's in, I don't think she says a word the whole movie. And there's only 2 scenes she's in where where she's looking up and over like this, and another one where she's literally standing there and not moving. Like
Yep,
you
that's
could have
Mantis though.
you
But
could have
that's
used a yeah, but the same thing with what's his name, Drax. Like Drax had one line, it was kind of just like rolling his eyes, and then the rest of the time he's just standing there. I'm like, did they get paid like by the movement? Like
But the
the
few
less
lines that the
the
Guardians
more
did
still you
have
are.
were really good. I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
like the Rocket and the Drax lines, like when they were fighting, like that stuff was really good. Like I remember thinking, like I'm happy that they didn't dwell too far on it. I'm happy that they opened up with the montage
Mhm.
and gave you that like real fast, and they showed you like the whole point of that whole entire scene was to show you that the Guardians worked as a team, and like Thor had reached a point to where like he had worked with teams, but he was kind of like at that space in his life to where it's like he was Buddha, right? I mean, like the
Mhm.
whole the hairdo and the dress up and everything else is kind of like to that point where it's like if you need me, call me.
Right.
But other than that, I'm very zen. You know, like Stormbreaker is putting down roots right here, literally.
Literally.
Yeah. Yeah. They did a great job with this, man. And I don't know if it was the IMAX, because we saw it in IMAX, didn't we?
Mhm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I noticed the color scheme, like the colors. I was like, wow, they are really, really vibrant. It looks really, really good.
I like contrast, you know, in certain points of view. Like I hope it doesn't age like as some other things I've watched over the years have, but I don't feel like it will. I mean, I feel like it's very tasteful.
Mhm.
It's like with Ragnarok and Sakaar. I mean, like all that was very in your face, but like it was Sakaar. I mean, like that's what you were led to believe. Like that's all responsible of that planet. But then you go to most versions of Asgard in all the Thor movies have been pretty bright, pretty
Yeah,
well lit up. You know, a lot of
it's
times
made to
it's more
look
neutral,
heavenly.
but yeah,
Yeah, or
very
prestigious and royal.
glorious.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, um, once again, I didn't ask for y'all to give a grade for this movie, but do y'all have a grade for this movie you want to put on it? I mean, overall, I think everybody really enjoyed this movie, correct?
Mhm.
I think this one ranks in the top half of the MCU movies for me. I couldn't tell you exactly where without really analyzing and looking on a list and probably watching another time, but it's definitely a top halfer. Like it's in the better half. I would say we did the last show out of 10, so I'll give this one an 8 out of 10. There wasn't any moments in this movie where I was not happy with what I was seeing or where I thought that this was just like too much. Um, I enjoyed the comedy, the action was good, and the story worked. So yeah, I'll give it an 8. Solid, solid score. Uh-oh.
I only think I saw Ragnarok like once in theater, and I'm gonna tell you, like with time, that movie got a whole lot better,
Okay.
and I think it's because like I enjoyed the humor. Like it wasn't the kind of humor that you only laugh the first time at. To me, it was the humor that I kept laughing at, like with Carl Urban and you know with the guns and the shake weight, and I mean like you who can't who you laugh, you just
Yeah.
laugh like it's there, it's gonna happen. Um, drenching my workplace in brains. I say that all the time. Like, you come up in here and drench my workplace in brains. Like, what are you doing? Like, there things are being done here. Um, I think this movie will kind of do the same thing.
Get better
And
with
I've
time.
yeah, and I say that because all Marvel movies push an agenda somehow, like push a storyline, push a main plot line that weaves in between them. Whereas you have serious movies like, I mean, dude, Captain America: Winter Soldier is a lot of people's favorite movie because it's very real and it's very practical. But I'm
Mm,
going to tell you, that movie has very low lying humor in it. It
mm,
has humor, and there are jokes being made. Like Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow in that movie says some things that are pretty funny, but they're meant to be like seriously funny. Like, I'm trying to break the ice because the ice is pretty heavy in this movie.
Isn't that
This
movie
kind
where
of
On Your Left started?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's when he
Same.
was running at the very beginning with
Mm,
Sam Wilson.
mm,
Um, I think that this kind of movie is just meant to be fun. It's
yeah.
not meant to seriously push something along as much as it is. It may have parts in this movie that are relevant or necessary for the universe to progress,
Mm,
but it's just fun. Like
yeah.
it's like Guardians fun. Like Guardians still had a purpose. They had the Power Stone in that movie.
Mm,
You look at everything they got done in that movie, but it was a fun. You had a good time watching it. This is a more comedy jokey movie on the nose, but at the same time, like it's hard to compare to something like The Winter Soldier. So what do I
so,
say? I mean, like, yeah, it's an easy 8. I
mhm.
mean, but it's also depends. Like, do you want to watch a funnier Marvel movie or do you want to watch a more serious Marvel movie? Do you want to
And
watch
that,
Avengers where they all come together? Do you want to watch Ragnarok? To me, is a go-to all the time.
mhm,
Like, I hate jumping that far ahead, but like Avengers, Ragnarok, like those are go-to movies for me in the Marvel stuff.
mhm. And that's what funny is because Guardians, the first one, is actually a go-to movie. It's
Yeah,
the
very much
only
so.
it's the only Marvel movie I own a hard copy of. Um, but yeah, it goes back to that thing we were saying earlier about grading movies. Like Winter Soldier is my favorite MCU movie. I grade that one at a 9.5. I love that movie. Grade this one an 8. They're totally different movies. That's a very close score, but they're totally different movies, and I
Yeah,
love them for. I enjoy them and grade them like that for different reasons because I got what I expected out of this movie, and I think that's why I'm taking this one a little better than Ragnarok. Once again, like I said, I've seen Ragnarok again. It does get better with another viewing. I do like it. It's like I said, it just wasn't. I think it's more. It's not what I was expecting to get with Thor. I was expecting fun, but not as
yeah.
much comedy. Now
It
I'm
was a little
starting to
too
get
much ripping
little.
the band-aid off.
Yes, now I'm used to it, and I knew a little more what to expect going into this one. And I just instead of
And you're not
I
alone
enjoy.
on that behalf.
Oh yeah,
This seems to be like there's a whole culture like evolving right now to where, I mean, like, you had the critics that were really hard on this movie, but then the fans watch it and the fans are like, I don't know what you're talking about. This movie is fun.
yeah. It's got a. I think the last time I checked Rotten Tomatoes, it was like 68 by the critics, but it was like 84 by the fans. So it's always like that too, man. Like I think
Mhm.
we talked about this for forgot on. That's what we're doing right now. We're critiquing a movie, so it's hard to say screw what the critics say. But we're fans critiquing what we saw. We're not getting paid to push an opinion or to come up with big
Yep.
words or to make some kind of crazy analysis about a movie that, like you said, is supposed to just be a fun time. I read some of the reviews of some of this stuff, and it's like, dude, what are you talking about? This is supposed to be a fun movie, man. It's supposed to be a fun Marvel movie. Like it's not that deep. Like I get there's story to it, and I get that you want the story to make sense, and there are hardcore fans, and you want, but come on, man, you want this movie to be fun too.
If you're not having fun in this stuff, like, you're really wasting your time. Like,
Hmm.
there has to be some level of fun.
Hmm.
And like, there's a way that you can look at this and like the Winter Soldier and like they're the same exact movie. Someone's pushing back against the establishment. It just depends on which way you want to think about it. Do you want the
Yeah.
person that's pushing back to be the winner, or do you want them to see that the establishment may not be all bad? So I mean, like, it really, like, you could. Things are simple, but that's what makes rating these things tough. I had a good time. Sarah, did you have a good time watching it?
I did.
So I
I
mean,
like
like,
I
Did the
like that
family
loud
enjoy it?
plenty times. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's one that I think I might see if I have a little time this week, see if the girls want to go see it because I think they would enjoy it. I know it's one that Ashley, she was like, well, of all the characters I go see, Thor's definitely one that I would like to see. I'm like, well, of course you would. I'm sure. Yeah.
He's got
What a,
finger grooves on his
what a
triceps.
surprise. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, this may be one I go see in theaters again. I rarely nowadays, mainly financially and time wise, don't go see movies twice. But this would be one I think the kids would have fun going and seeing. That's safe for them to see. Minus the Thor butt thing. 13-year-old and 15-year-old, but whatever. I mean, you see a lot of male butt on TV nowadays.
Mhm.
Like
I
even
will
on
tell
just
you
color
right
TV.
now, I was transfixed by the tattoos. Like I didn't even see that man's
Yeah.
ass. I was like, what does he have? Does that say Loki? This is what?
Well, can I ask you something? Why is it taboo to put a female butt on television, but not a male?
Well, I mean,
Like I
I
don't.
guess
I never
depending on where
understood
you
that.
grew up and what terms that you're used to, there is a front butt and a back butt. So I guess it depends
True.
on. You don't want to see too much of a butt.
You're right. Yeah, I guess I always looked at it as I guess maybe a female ass is looked at as more of a I don't know, a
I don't know.
sexual. I don't
It
know
goes
either.
right back to the whole
It's weird
underwear
trying to break it
bikini
down.
thing. Like if I'm wearing like who, yeah. At the same time, as a man, look, Chris Hemsworth has a devotion
Yeah.
to his physical
Yeah.
what
I got
he's
no-
got going on, what he's
Yeah.
working with.
If I
I
was
appreciate
him,
that.
I would be totally doing what he's doing too. I have no
Yep.
problem. Yeah, show it off. Seriously, like if you work that hard on it, show it off. No problem.
Not only is he funny, and is he a family man, he's Australian. So I mean, like right there, I mean that's like might as
So
well
you
just
could
go
probably
ahead.
drink, right?
He's got more than like 3 checks in the checkbox category. So I mean, like he's good to go.
Good guy. One of the best castings Marvel did, I think.
Mhm.
Was the funniest thing was his kid wanting to be Captain America. I remember that. I think that was around the Ragnarok time frame. There was like, no, it must have been Chris Pratt. I don't know. The 3 Chris's always they're real fun on social media, like watching
Mhm.
their shit pop up. But man, that's I don't know. Hemsworth is a specimen. He's very much a Henry Cavill specimen.
Agreed. Everyone on there. Yeah, agreed. Well, all right. Did y'all have anything else you want to bring up about the movie? I'm sure we'll probably talk about it. It'll trickle into the conversation the next week or so. We'll be talking about money it's making. Which, by the way, I think last time I looked at it, it was projected 145 to 165 million opening weekend.
Oh, I thought it was much taller than that. I thought that they had pre-sales at over 300.
Let's see. I had it pulled up here. Thor Love and Thunder box office heads for 135 to 145 opening.
Domestic?
Probably, and it's probably
Okay.
just let's see. Marvel's North America box office runs Friday haul of 69.5, including a 29.6 in Thursday previews. So, yeah, I guess it is just domestic. It's still lower than I thought, but
I mean, we went to a late showing and I
was
had
packed.
someone sitting next to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's the most packed I've been. And I go to almost all of these opening night. That's the most packed it's been in a theater since I've in. God, I couldn't tell you last time it was that packed.
how was your theater, Sarah?
It was well, we went to a different one, so probably if we had gone to our normal one, I think it would probably been more packed. But this one was just a typical Regal. So I mean, it was pretty full. I mean, not everybody wasn't sitting on top of each other. I mean, nobody was sitting in the front rows. Let's put it that way. So I felt like it was fairly average. But then again, I went on Saturday, so it wasn't like
Sure.
opening like Thursday or Friday
Sure.
or anything like that.
I keep forgetting it's Saturday. It was not Saturday. It's weird.
I may, like you said, I may have time too. I may try to go see it again. I may try for a Wednesday showing or something.
Hey, I'm off Wednesday. Hit me up if you're headed this way. If you're around this area, maybe we'll go see.
Or
it again.
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Yeah, we'll talk. Anyway, that's the Thor review. Another one in the books.
I keep prolonging it.
Yeah. Enjoy this movie. I recommend it, especially if you gotten to this point and you've spoiled it for yourself. Go see it if you haven't yet.
Yeah, if you've seen the other 28 Marvel movies, then number 29 doesn't disappoint. It is fun. It's actually, to me, it was a fresh breath air. Breath of
Yes.
fresh air.
Fresh.
Let me get that
Yes.
saying right. It was a breath of fresh air. I'm so confused because everything is ass backwards in that movie. I keep thinking of Hemsworth's ass. You have
It's the
all
lucky
this other
tattoo.
serious
Yeah.
have all this other serious stuff that goes on, like with Multiverse of Madness and No Way Home. Like it's all supposed to be fun and like multiversal. This was, like I said, this was the movie I was waiting for. It was just fun.
Yeah.
It's what I needed. I needed to get past uh in game Fat Thor. I needed to see what happened after that. I felt like I did the workout with him. I don't have the body that he does, but I did the workout with him, and I'm happy to laugh my
Well, I
ass
didn't feel
off.
like you had to think so much on this one too.
Yeah, that's the
Especially when you're
thing.
doing like all
Yeah.
the multiverse stuff. You're just like,
Yes.
whoa. You know, you feel like you're doing math in your head, and you're like, whoa. You're trying to follow everything. So this one
I
was
just need goats
straightforward.
screaming and
Yeah.
Natalie Portman.
You know what I needed this movie gave me? I needed to fall in love with a Marvel movie again that wasn't about the Infinity Stones.
Yeah.
Like that wasn't solely. I know most of the movies before had something to do with them, but I mean, like wasn't like in last movies I loved from Marvel was Infinity Game anymore, and like or in game Infinity War. So like I needed something that was like away from that I loved and or that I had a really good time with, and that's what I got with this movie, and that's why it was.
What is that Drake meme to where it's like Infinity Stones, Infinity Scones, or Infinity Cones, or like whatever else they had at Asgard World? I mean, I love to call back in that little area. Like,
Yeah.
you want some Infinity Cones? Come get some Infinity Cones.
Oh, they were definitely doing some marketing there for sure.
Yeah, they were.
I would too. Oh yeah, make the money. All right, y'all. It is 1:15 in the morning. We're here on the East Coast. I don't think there's anybody left in the chat room right now. Understandably so. But did a Saturday night show this week, a little later than normal. But I think next week we're planning on a Friday at 9. We have a guest coming on with a comic, a creator next week. Which I could email it to y'all so that we can check all that stuff out. But business as usual, correct? And so we got Miss Marvel finale, comic to review and interview the creator. And then are we out of shows for the moment? We may have to start doing some retros.
Yeah, I mean, I have to put something together.
Yeah. Well, we're due to
some
put a
time.
short show together. This was a very long and late one, so we're due to
True.
put a short show together.
I see a 3-hour mark right there.
There you go. Well, let's go ahead and get out of there. Sarah, where can they find you at?
You can find me on the Twitter at MyLadyKitten. That's pretty much it. All I can think of right now.
You can find me at the BatDaddy52 on Twitter. Not very often because I really don't use it much anymore. I don't know how much longer Twitter's going to be around, but we'll find out. Or check out at GCS Podcast 1, the show handle. Ross, here and only here, right?
Right here.
There you go. Well, all right. Well, good review, y'all. Fun week. And I guess until next week, y'all keep pounding.